What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Omni-sensei here with What If I Were Reborn in Lucifer/DC as Lucifer Morningstar, the King of Hell, Part 3. If you enjoy this type of content, please set the like button ablaze. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember to check out the original story linked in the description. Let's dive into the legend of the King of Hell without further ado. As the Morningstar descended on the Bifrost, he walked upon it towards the gates of Asgard. He was completely at ease. It was akin to a man taking a stroll in his own backyard, in a sense that may soon be true. As he arrived before the Golden Gates, he saw that its guards have left their posts. He knew Odin had a plan. The shrewd old coot would most definitely attempt to convince him to spare his kingdom. Yet, of course, Lucifer already expected that. It is for that reason he worded his words so tightly, but also in a way so open. The devil will receive his dues. Lucifer put his hands on the gate and walked forward, opening it. When he saw the sight before him, he immediately understood the shrewd old man's plan. For before him were not only the Aesir, but their worshippers as well. The worshippers prostrating before the Lightbringer in plea to spare their gods. This was Odin's threat and offering. By sparing Asgard, the story of Lucifer, who will be seen as a mighty god of destruction that Thor had incurred the wrath of, will be spread, which is one of Lucifer's goals. To burn his tail in all of humanity's stories. It is a threat hidden behind a story of mercy. If Lucifer truly killed all the gods, then the same catastrophe that occurred upon Uruk will descend upon Midgard also. Odin knows the Morningstar to be just and merciful, never raising a hand against one who he deems innocent. O Star of Dawn, we beg of thee, spare our gods, for without them, we will be without guidance and mercy. We beg of thee, O God of destruction, we will worship thee, and hallow thy name. The worshippers uttered in plea, I do not desire your worship, believers of the Aesir. What I am here for is my dues. Your thunderer has invaded my kingdom, and for that I have promised to paint the floors of Asgard red with their blood. To draw a river of blood into my kingdom in the abyss as a warning to all to never again cross me. Lucifer stated as he pocketed his hands and his eyes burned with hellfire. We beg for thee to reconsider, O God of destruction. They once again cried out in plea, as some of them even hit their heads on the ground. Lucifer was already getting tired of hearing this. Perhaps you could receive an offering from them, my lord? Suddenly one of the worshippers from the back spoke, a child, raising his head. As the boy did, everyone's attention turned to him. His father next to him immediately put his hand on his head, whispering furiously, Silence, Ragnar. Do not speak of what you do not understand. But Father Ragnar attempted to protest as his father continued to force his head onto the ground. Enough, allow the child to speak, Lucifer's voice suddenly rang out. The father, fearful and reluctant, did as told and allowed his son to raise his head, and prostrated himself once more. You speak of an offering, child? Lucifer questioned. The boy slowly nodded in wonder at actually being listened to by this being who he saw as a god even Odin feared. What do you believe they can offer me, Ragnar? Lothbrok, my lord. Ragnar Lothbrok. I do not know, my lord. You yourself said you do not desire our worship, which, if I am being honest, perplexes me. Ragnar stated, showcasing his courage in front of all as he dared to question the Morningstar's actions. It is quite simple, child. I am not worthy of worship. Lucifer explained. Not worthy of worship. The boy questioned in wonder and confusion. He had never heard of one he believed a god to say they weren't worthy of worship. The only one worthy of worship is a perfect being, child, and neither I nor those so-called gods behind you, whimpering in their boots and hiding behind you, a mere boy, behind those who they promise protection, are worthy of it. We can be selfish, we can make mistakes, we can be unjust. Why should one worship beings such as us? Why should you call them gods? Why bestow upon them your absolute obedience when they can misuse it? So no, child, demanding your worship goes against who I am. Lucifer explained to the boy, who stared at the archangel with more and more wonder by the moment. Lightbringer, I offer you my life. One of the Aesir suddenly called out as he went on his knees and drew his sword, attempting to pierce his heart were it not for Lucifer's timely prevention through his magic. What is the meaning of this? Lucifer questioned in a tone demanding for an explanation. Soon another also fell on his knees and drew his sword to do the same, and then another, and once more another till they numbered in the hundreds. We know your character, knower of truth. You never go back on your word. We are combatants of the army of Asgard, and we offer our lives and blood as a river into the abyss. We offer our lives and souls as a plea for mercy. The first one explained. That is still only a single aspect of my dues. Blood for blood, life for life, and soul for soul. But I am still missing a proper offering from your king for his treacherous intentions, Lucifer stated coldly. Then I offer you the thing I value most in all the 9 realms, my daughter Hela. Odin suddenly stated, his voice booming. Lucifer, hearing this, nearly flew into rage at his daringness. How dare he offer someone up akin to an object when he was the very representation of the desire for freedom of choice for all? I am willing. Hela suddenly stated. She herself instantly realized Lucifer's thoughts based on the stories she knew of him and his blank expression. Are you now? You do realize, daughter of Odin, that I do not desire a concubine. You will merely be one of my subjects within the kingdoms of pain. I could choose to even give you up as a slave to one of my demons to have their way with you as they please. Are you still willing? Willing for a father who offers you up as an object, uncaring of the torments that can be done upon you? The devil questioned, his voice soft, but encompassing all present in their chill. I am still willing. She stated, this time looking the devil right in his burning gaze, not flinching away in the slightest. Lucifer became silent for a moment. Then I don't know whether to commend you for your loyalty or curse you for your foolishness. Very well, I accept, and as the Morningstar then raised his hand and clenched it into a fist, the combatants all burst into a river of blood that began to flow down from the Bifrost into hell. Lucifer's magic compensating the required amount of blood from their essence. As Lucifer then opened a gate of fire to hell, gesturing to Hela to follow him. Wait. Someone suddenly called out. Lucifer turned around to see the boy named Ragnar having stood up and ran towards them while his father behind him called out to him in worry. Will I ever be able to see you again? You wish to see me once more, child? Lucifer questioned, confused. The boy vehemently nodded. I want to listen to you more. I like listening to your voice. You sound very wise and soothing. Lucifer was for a moment baffled until he let out a few chuckles at the boy's boldness. Lucifer knelt down before the boy as he opened his palm and put a small coin on it. If you clench this around your fist and think of me, you will be able to call upon me once. Only you can do it, and it cannot be stolen from you, for I have bound it to your soul. Call upon me when you are truly ready to see me once more. Lucifer stated, foregoing that it can also bring him back to life once if he entered hell out of misplaced guilt. It was his reward for the boy's courage and wisdom. As the boy nodded with a bright smile on his face, his eyes filled with wonder, Lucifer ruffled his hair and stood up. With a wave of goodbye, he and Hela entered the gate of fire, returning once more to hell. What is it, father? You have not been in the greatest mood since we have restarted your journey. Mazikeen remarked as she and Lucifer were walking through the desert, Lucifer wearing a white robe, Mazikeen a black one alongside a black head-covering scarf. Lucifer was silent for a moment. I owe my father a favor, Mazikeen, and he has called me to collect it. Was all Lucifer stated as he continued to walk, for the rest of the journey not answering any of Mazikeen's other questions. Mazikeen herself did not understand. When did her grandfather aid her father in any way that he would owe him? As they neared a mountain, Lucifer suddenly stopped. Mazikeen, stay here, pass this way is dangerous for you. He is only expecting me. Before Mazikeen could even give a retort, Lucifer spread his wings and took flight towards that mountain. And as he started to descend, one could see quite the peculiar sight. A man prostrating before a burning bush whose fire seemed to only burn it and not spread outward. Raise your head, Moses. A voice from the fire addressed the man as Lucifer gently landed. This is my son Samuel, my lightbringer. He will be your aid against Pharaoh, Yahweh stated. Lucifer, hearing his words, frowned, while Moses himself flinched at hearing the name of the rebel archangel. Is that why you have called upon me, father? Is that the price I owe for your aid that day? To protect one of your prophets? Was Gabriel too busy? I recall this was his glorious task, Lucifer stated, finishing with a mocking tone. Do you refuse, Samuel? Was all God questioned. Lucifer became silent. On one hand, he did not wish to accept, but on the other, this was a great opportunity to no longer owe his father anything. but he needed confirmation before he accepted anything. Do I understand correctly that this is payment for your aid last time? To aid Moses, prophet of the Israelites in his quest to free his people from the clutches of Pharaoh. No, it is but an aspect. Until my final prophet, I expect you to aid whom I desire among the prophets and messengers in fulfilling your purpose of punishing all whom stand against me. That is who I made you to be Samuel, my destroyer. Yahweh explained. It seems you really can't take the hint, can you? I have forsaken that name. I am no longer your venom. Lucifer hissed. Yet all three remained silent, for Lucifer had yet to outright deny or accept. Lucifer knew he needed to no longer owe his father anything. That it needed to be as soon as possible, for his father knows what else he could demand of him in the future. Lucifer knew this was in fact a form of counter against him. A counter against his own stories, for this painted him as still under his father's thumb, but as much as he wished to, he could not easily outright refuse, for he owed him. Lucifer couldn't negotiate either, for the amount he owed his father depended on how much he himself valued his father's aid, and there wasn't much he valued more than being stopped from becoming him, which is what his fate would have been as he was being swallowed in his memories. Lucifer clicked his tongue in annoyance and defeat. Before I accept, I wish to add a condition. Speak, Yahweh commanded. I do things my way. You have given me authority over those who have strayed from your path, and I will do with them as I wish, Lucifer stated. No, Yahweh refused, for a moment shocking Lucifer, for he expected him to agree. You are but to be an aid to the prophets and messengers. They are the ones who will act as judge. Your only function will be to make reality what they desire, as you did for me when you fashioned creation. You gave me authority over the strayers. How does this make sense? Lucifer questioned, furious at the prospect of acting once more as a tool for his father. Your authority extends to the amount they have strayed from it in its permanence. Moses is not sent as a messenger of destruction to Pharaoh, but as mercy. Pharaoh and his people have not truly strayed completely, for no clear messenger has been sent to them. Yahweh explained in retort, but I still have a right of authority over them. You yourself have bestowed this upon me. Lucifer countered. He was starting to get a bit desperate, though he hid it well, for only God could see it. And I have commanded you to be Moses' aid. You therefore will do as he desires when it comes to Pharaoh and his people. Your authority over them, you will use in your aid. That was the price for the aid you made a favor. If you truly do not wish to do this, then simply tell me you do not see it as a favor, but as a gift from me. I myself never intended for my aid to be a shackle around your neck. It is you who made it so, my son. Tell me you accept it for the gift it was from your father, who still holds love for you, Samuel, and this matter will be forgotten, and you will be able to return to your own path. Yahweh stated. Lucifer, hearing his father's words, could only grit his teeth and clench his fists. He couldn't accept his father's aid as a gift. He couldn't. It would go against his pride. He would still feel as if he owes him, and he couldn't live with that being over his head for the rest of eternity. Very well, I accept. Lucifer bit out bitterly. Though he had his own plan. He wouldn't dance to his father's tune. He will turn this poisoned chalice into the Holy Grail. Hearing his son's acceptance, God's attention returned back to Moses, who was listening to this conversation with wide eyes. Moses, becoming aware of this, began to speak. And my God, I yshfo for 8fr from my br brother Harun. I cannot speak we well. Lucifer knew the story behind Moses' stutter. When he was but a baby and taken in by Ramses I, he was quite unruly. He pulled his beard, hit him, bit him, and one day a magician came and warned the king that the baby will be the destruction of him and all he has wrought. His actions being evidence. Ramses could not believe it, for he saw Moses as but a baby, and said that he did not understand what he was doing. The magician advised the pharaoh then to test the boy. He put a red-hot poker in front of the child, and delicious food. If the baby avoided the poker and ate from the food, then he had understanding, and Pharaoh would sentence his death as he did all the other male babies of the Israelites. As Moses then went to reach out to the food, Gabriel, invisible to all, picked Moses' hand and put it on the poker and made him put it in his mouth, burning his tongue. You will have it. Your brother will be waiting for you in the city. As for your speech, God began as Moses suddenly began to glow with white light for a moment. Your tongue has been healed. Moses, testing it out, forming words more clearly, felt tears stream down his eyes as he prostrated once more to his Maker. Rise, my prophet, for you are yet to be bestowed all I wish to give, God commanded. "Pick up your stick, Moses, and throw it onto the earth." The Almighty commanded as Moses rose. Moses did as told, though took in a fearful breath as he stepped back, for the stick had turned into a mighty serpent nearing his own size. The serpent began to approach and circle the archangel, sensing the defiance Lucifer had for the Maker. As it locked eyes with the Morningstar, it glared into his own cold look directed at it. Eventually the serpent decided that since the angel was for now obeying the God, that it would seek no further hostilities, and transformed back into the stick, which Moses picked up warily, half expecting it to transform and bite him. "This is but few of my blessings, Moses, son of Amram. Now go forth and know the Lord is with you." And as God commanded, Lucifer flapped his wings, flying towards Moses, picking him up, flying him to his wife and children waiting for him down below the mountain. Moses, after with aid from the archangel, brought his wife and children to his father-in-law, entered the city, Lucifer walking behind him, covering himself in a cloak for whether he liked it or not. Now that he was under divine authority once more, his divine beauty is once more at its apex, glowing with heaven's light. It would not bode well to show it to the weak-willed. Though something peculiar that was not easily noticed during this bright day is the fact that wherever the archangel stepped, the sand glowed even brighter with light. As Moses entered, walking past the guards as if invisible, a blessing from God, saw a man running towards him with joy in his every step. "Moses!" Harun yelled with happiness as he slammed into his brother with a powerful hug. It really was true. The angel told me I would see you here today. Harun stated with joy and excitement as he broke the hug and held Moses by his shoulders. Lucifer could see the angel Harun was speaking of, walking behind him, invisible to all but him. Lucifer, making himself invisible, approached the cloaked angel. "It has been quite a while, Uriel." Uriel looked him dead in the eyes, but remained silent, ignoring him. In a sense, Lucifer found it fair. Uriel may have been revived by their father alongside the rest of the host who did not side with him, but he still killed him. "Uriel," Lucifer once more called out to him, but to no avail as the archangel spread his wings and took flight, choosing to guard from a farther distance away. Lucifer with sorrow looked towards the path the weaver of patterns took as he followed after Harun and Moses, who already without any interruptions have went on their path towards the palace of Pharaoh. "Moses! Is it really?" The Pharaoh began as he descended from his throne, approaching the prophet. As he ran to him, he immediately hugged him. "It is a great sight to have you before me." The Pharaoh called out with joy as he saw his exiled adoptive sibling come before him. Moses, in defense of one of the Israelites, killed the guard who was whipping him by accident. The ungrateful slave soon after once more got into trouble, and when Moses confronted him about it, threatened to out him, which he did, but not before Moses fled the city. In that time Ramses II has taken his father's place and had abolished the exile his father had previously put when he found out about Moses's actions after he had fled. Your Majesty, we, loath to have to remind you, but whoever he may be, he has committed a great offense against the gods. For that he must be one of the attendants of the Pharaoh spoke. "Be still," Ramses interrupted, annoyed and disgusted. "I am the morning and the evening star. It is my will that is the will of the gods." Lucifer internally scoffed at this man who fashioned himself a god, attempting to take his own God-given names. Moses himself also became less joyful after hearing his adoptive brother's words, giving a side glance towards Lucifer, knowing his pride. Harun doing the same, after on the way hearing about his meeting with the Lord and his rebel archangel, yet luckily nothing came to pass. "I do not wish to repeat myself. I have already pardoned Moses from all his crimes, and he is once more my brother, the Prince of Egypt," Ramses stated, putting his hands on Moses' shoulders with joyful smile. Moses himself had a saddened look on his face, as he gave a glance towards Harun, who nodded from behind towards him in support. "Ramses, in my heart you will always be my brother, but things cannot be the same as they were before," Moses stated. "Of course they won't. They will now be even better, Moses. I even observe that your tongue has been healed. It must be a miracle from the gods. They have led you back to me, my dear brother, and together we will have a life better than ever before," the Pharaoh stated, proud and boisterous. Moses shook his head. "Ramses, let us have this conversation in a more private setting. Come with me," Ramses ordered, causing Moses to follow him. "Good sirs, let us lead you to a more comfortable place," one of the female servants stated towards the two, but was ignored by Lucifer, who simply turned around and started to walk outside. Apologies for his actions, but we will wait outside. We already have a place to stay, Harun stated as he followed behind Lucifer soon after. Pharaoh's chambers, you remember this place, Moses, when you and I filled Father's Nemes with sand. Remember how furious he looked, his face completely red, and how we ran as he chased us. Ramses spoke fondly as he took off his own Nemes and sat on a small private throne. Yet Moses's sad and serious expression did not change. What is it, Moses? You know you could never hide from me when something bothered you, Ramses stated. Ramses, I have been sent by the Maker of all as a messenger of mercy towards you. I bring you his command, for you to forsake those you have ascribed as partners to him and let his chosen people go. Moses stated seriously. What command? Pharaoh questioned, baffled. Behold, Moses stated as he put his hand under his armpit and brought it out. It was burning with its own bright white light, brightening the dark room. The power of God, Moses stated. Ramses had to squint and protect his eyes from the bright light until Moses finally put his hand back under his armpit and brought it out once more normal. You think magic will dissuade me, Moses? Have you been sent by Apophis against me, the son of Ra himself? Pharaoh hissed angrily. This is no magic, Ramses, but a miracle of the Lord. Those who you fashion gods are not worthy of your worship. They are powerless before him. Moses countered calmly. Enough, Moses. I thought when you came back, I regained my brother, but it seems you have come back bewitched. Return here tomorrow and my own magicians will set you free, Ramses commanded. Moses sighed as he turned around. I will return tomorrow, but to once more remind you that the Lord has commanded you. Your magicians will attempt to stand against his miracles, but they will fail, I assure you that. As the prophet stated this, he pushed open the door, leaving a wrathful Ramses behind. As Moses arrived outside, he saw only Lucifer remaining there, waiting for him, as the sun has gone down the horizon. You waited for me this entire time? Questioned the prophet. I have been assigned as your aide. I have accepted to do so, meaning leaving you in the heart of the enemy's domain unprotected is not something I would do. Lucifer explained. So you heard what went down there? Moses stated, less as a question, a more confirming statement, earning a nod from the archangel. As they stood there in silence looking up at the moon, Moses opened his mouth and spoke, You are honestly different from what I imagined. Oh, and how did you imagine me a great prophet of Yahweh? Lucifer questioned, curiously. More monstrous, unreasonable, simply a force that can only destroy and can neither protect nor heal. But I see none of that now. Moses stated as he looked at the archangel. I assure you, Lucifer began as he stopped leaning against the wall, I can be that and more. The archangel told the prophet. Of that I have no doubt, Moses stated. How did you do it? The prophet suddenly questioned, earning a confused hum from the fallen angel. How did you muster up the ability to go against Michael? From what I understand, you were inseparable. Bound at the hip, as one would say. Wherever you went, he went. The living example of the shadow never being separated from the light. Lucifer, for the first time in eons, felt a pang in his heart at the mention of his twin. Having forced himself to not think about their broken bond in ages. He was silent for a while. Moses himself remained patient, understanding that he may have opened old wounds. I did it for him. For all of us. You, Moses, may like all his servants believe that I rebelled out of selfishness. Out of pride, envy, and hate, and no doubt to a certain extent those were great influences. But all I still do is rooted in one thing and one thing only, love. All I did was because of my love for him, for them. I couldn't stand us all being simply tools in his eyes. To be something that can be discarded at any moment, replaced by a new shiny toy. I couldn't stand how he favored you all over us who have since the very dawn of his creation done everything in his name. I refused to prostrate to your father Adam out of envy and pride, yes, but to an extent. This is something I have had a long time to think about when I was in my slumber, but I believe that I also refused to lower my head to someone other than him. I may not believe him to be worthy of worship, but prostration in itself is not an action of worship, Moses. It's a form of respect, something my father intended for us to bestow upon Adam, for he would never command us to worship anyone but him. I may not have liked many of his decisions, disagree with them still, even now that I understand him better than ever before, but Moses, I did in a sense still do respect him. Lucifer explained, his tone soft, gentle, as if the words are like glass and if not careful will break before they leave his mouth. And for a moment the Morningstar remained silent as he once more opened his mouth to speak. "This is my advice to you, Moses. Do what you think is best. Going against one you love as a brother is difficult, something I understand better than anyone. But know this, if he does not obey, then he will fall into my kingdom. Thus saith your Lord, for he has bestowed upon me the knowledge of what he deems worthy of my wrath. Therefore you must understand that sometimes to save the ones we love, we have to hurt them ourselves." The devil stated, and after his final words disappeared akin to the wind, leaving Moses a great many thoughts in his wake. As the sun brightened a new day, Moses, followed by Harun and Lucifer, already arrived at the gates of the palace of the Pharaoh. Ramses looked down seriously, keeping silent as 10 magicians stood before the prophet of the Lord. As the onlookers gazed upon them, they wasted no more time, for this may have been disguised as a cleansing of Moses from the influence of Apophis. The ones present knew the truth. This was a challenge, one between the self-proclaimed gods of Egypt and the Lord of the heavens and earth. Moses, as the one bearing the message, and in essence, the one who came with his claim, began as he threw his staff upon the floors of the palace and a mighty serpent transformed out of it. It was God mocking the Egyptians, in essence stating that even the being they all tremble at the mention of, their Apophis and all that he represents is but a subject to the Lord of all. The magicians all began to whisper their spells and throw paint symbols with their staff upon the air. A small sea of snakes, rats, and various insects swarmed towards Moses, who remained calm for he knew his Lord was with him. The serpent in retaliation hissed furiously and opened its mouth wide, attacking the swarm and with his tail swiping all the attack, flattening, devouring and poisoning all that stood before it. For this serpent is one that can even harm an archangel with its fangs and venom, if bitten. One that has enough courage to stare upon the Morningstar. It soon enough laid waste to all of their summons, causing some of the magicians to back away in fear and attempt to run away, while some fell down in prostration and stated their witness that the only God is Lord of the Israelites. Ramses looked furious at the sight before him. "How dare you run before I give you permission? How dare you worship his God without me bestowing upon you the right? Know this, I will cut off your hand and leg on opposite sides and crucify you all." The Pharaoh roared. The magicians who were stopped by the guards upon their escape attempt fell down in prostration before Pharaoh, begging for his mercy, while the ones who have chosen to worship the God of Moses remained calm and stated, "We no longer fear you, Pharaoh, for we have ourselves witnessed the might of the true Maker of all. You may kill us all, but know this, we have now repented and will be welcomed in the gardens of eternal peace." Have you witnessed now, Ramses? Is this clear enough for you to understand, brother? The Lord of all has commanded you, "Release my people and repent to him." I am a messenger of mercy from him to you, but his patience towards you is not endless. Do not invoke his wrath, for if it's kindled even a little. Moses warned as he gave a side glance towards the cloaked Lucifer. "Enough. Get out of my sight, Moses. As a mercy from me in respect to our brotherhood, I will not slaughter you and those with you. Leave my palace this instant. And know I will never release your people." Ramses stated, thundered, his voice as cold as ice. At the Pharaoh's words the air seemed to become warmer as a wave of powerful energy seemed to fill the air. Everyone could feel it, but only Moses and Harun understood what was at hand and could see with their own eyes the Lightbringer's aura filling the every corner of the palace. Moses, with a saddened look upon his face, turned around. "Then know this, Pharaoh, whatever happens from now on, the blame falls upon you." And with those parting words the three left the palace. Ramses in his rage roared as he threw the golden cup-filled wine after their leave. As Lucifer walked outside with the prophets, he suddenly sensed a call. Someone was calling upon him with their very soul. Something Lucifer himself had forbidden vehemently, for that is one of the primary aspects of worship. Someone was praying to him. Without any word he made himself invisible to human sight and spread his wings towards the place in the desert where the prayer originated. "Lucifer, it is so good to see you," a woman pulling back her headscarf stated. "Perdissa?" Lucifer questioned, surprised as he landed, seeing the woman standing next to the Nile. She was one of the angels who remained neutral during the Great War. "Indeed, elder brother, it is a sight for sore eyes to see the most beautiful in creation before me," Perdissa stated as she approached Lucifer and lovingly put her palm on his cheek. Lucifer, noticing the glint in her eyes, slowly backed away, feeling something wrong from her. "What is it, Perdissa? Why did you pray to me?" "You know how much I dislike it," Lucifer stated seriously. "Oh please, son of the morning, you are always so strict with that. Father himself doesn't see the cries of the soul as worship, so long as the intention is not to fashion them as your God. She countered with a smile. Be that as it may, sister, why have you called upon me? Last I remember, you chose neutrality. Lucifer stated, his eyes wary. In response, the redhead tore apart her clothes, standing naked before him, giving him a show, as she slowly turned around before him. Look at me, don't I look ravishing? She questioned, and now Lucifer understood what the wrongness he felt directed towards him was. It was lust, her lust. Sister, what have you done to yourself? Lucifer questioned in shock. I did what I had to. Father and mother made us angels incapable of feeling any sexual desire to one another, but seeing and experiencing the pleasures of the flesh through the dreams of mankind, I felt envious. Perdissa stated as she approached Lucifer further, pressing herself against him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Him being able to feel the warmth of her breath on his chin. I envied Lilith, who had the greatest man in creation all to herself, who I was even incapable of feeling lust towards. And so, with enough use of the dreaming and magic, I was able to change that. Now, brother, we can be together. You and me, my prince. She stated as she tried to kiss him, which Lucifer swiftly dodged, pushing her away. His expression revolted. Sister, I love Lilith, Lucifer told her seriously. That doesn't stop you. You are desire, Lucifer, and I can even sense that you already have love for a woman besides her, one from a time beyond ours. I am still the angel of love, brother. You cannot dissuade me with that. Perdissa countered as she got up. I do not desire you, Perdissa. I don't feel that for you, which you have made yourself able to feel for me. The fallen archangel told her. Then make yourself able to feel it just like I did. Lucifer, there is none worthy of you besides me. I am your beloved little sister. There is none who understand your love for us better than me, she told him as she once more tried to approach him, causing him to back away. If you truly did, then you would understand. I never loved any of you this way. And never desired to, either. Lucifer told her as he conjured up a cloak and approached her, putting it around her naked form, looking away as he did. Perdissa, finally understanding she'd been thoroughly rejected, flew into a rage as she slapped Lucifer. He moved with her hand to not harm it, because of her incapability to actually harm him. How could you, Lucifer? How can you reject me? I am your sister. Perdissa roared with sorrow and rage. It is precisely for that very reason I reject you, Lucifer told her. Suddenly they both observed the Nile turn red with blood. Apologies, sister, but I have to go. I have duties elsewhere. And as the Morningstar took flight, Perdissa roared, Curse you, Lucifer. Curse you, angel of desire. Curse you for not desiring me. For this humiliation, I will one day eat your heart, as retribution for breaking mine. Lucifer in the distance, sorrowfully shook his head, not understanding how the kind sister she was before could have turned out like this. But he decided that he will deal with her when the time comes, for right now, he has punishment to dish out. As Samuel flew towards the source of the miracle, he saw Moses and Harun at the shore, a large amount of the Israelites with them, surrounded by Pharaoh's army. As he descended, still invisible, he with but a snap of his fingers, blasted the soldiers a great distance away, causing the people to gasp. Moses, Lucifer called out, only his voice capable of being heard by him. His being yet still invisible to all. Daystar, has my father given you his command? The archangel questioned, and as he did, the prophet remained silent for a moment as he lowered his head. The Lord. God has commanded upon me to tell you that he orders the destroyer to perform his duties. He told me you would understand the meaning behind his words. And Lucifer did. When he was Samuel, his job wasn't only to shape, but also to destroy. Michael may have the power, but he never had Samuel's will to punish. Never the stomach for it. Michael has always been the judge, the defender of heaven, but Samuel, his enforcer. The Punisher is not a recent moniker, but an old one. The old man didn't perfect free will in one go. He first had his experiments. Samuel never envied them, for they were pitiful and discarded. The abortions of creation that the destroyer angel laid waste to, slumbering or wandering in the mansions of silence by command of Yahweh till this day and forevermore. Entire planets reduced to cosmic dust. The stars, his children, always loved him, the angels his siblings as well, with great respect, but the rest of creation has always feared him. Heaven and earth, in particular always fearful, wary. Another one of the many reasons on the pile for why he rebelled. Tired of always having to clean his messes. Lucifer said nothing more as he with a beat of his wings took flight to the skies above Egypt, looking down upon it. He needed to be careful, it has been a long time since he has done this. He was never required precision until now, for it was always simply to obliterate completely till nothing remained. Smite all their territory with frogs. So the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into their houses, into their bedrooms, on their beds, into the houses of their servants, on their people, into their ovens, and into their kneading bowls. And the frogs shall come up on them, on their people, and on all their servants. Samuel heard his father's words echo within his being. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel stated in acknowledgement. And it was like riding a bike, never truly being able to be unfamiliar once learned, for immediately Samuel sensed that with his father's aid, he had once more for a limited time access to the will, for his father himself was ceasing the destructive effect of the copy of omniscience, temporarily. As the words left the archangel's mouth, frogs jumped out of the bloody Nile and flooded the entirety of the kingdom, save the ones who were truly innocent among the people. The ones who within their heart accepted that what their Pharaoh was doing was unjust and attempted in their own way to disobey. This continued for 3 weeks. Pharaoh, you have earned the Lord's wrath. Will you repent? It is not yet too late, for if you do, all you and your people have lost will be reversed. Moses stated. Yet the Pharaoh only roared with rage, sending threats and attacks that were fruitless, for the prophet was protected by the Lord and his archangel. Moses shook his head. Strike the dust of the land, so that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. God commanded his son. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel stated as he then with a mighty kick struck the earth, bringing up a wave of dust, it all becoming lice, preying on man and beast, not leaving a place where injustice ruled free. This continued for 3 weeks. Pharaoh, I have once more come to you as a reminder of mercy from the Lord of the worlds. His might is boundless, repent and let his people go, and all that is lost will be returned. And yet once more the Pharaoh raged, attacking Moses himself, this time with a sword. Though before it even could strike, the serpent formed from the stick and with a mighty swing of its tail struck the Pharaoh against his throne, crushing it and blinding him in one eye. It hissed as it transformed back, leaving a sorrowful Moses, who had tears forming within his eyes, turning his back and leaving once more. If he will not let my people go, then let him behold. Samuel send swarms of flies on him and his servants, on his people and into their houses. The houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, as well as the ground on which they stand. And in that day, my son, I command you to set apart the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, in order that they may know that I am the Lord in the midst of the land. Thus saith the Lord. Samuel once more uttered as fire burst out of his being, every ember of it transforming into flies and leaving no place safe, save the ones protected by Lord. This time, the protected were only the Israelites, for the people of Egypt have all attempted to take their anger out upon the Israelites for the plagues. This continued for 3 weeks. This time, Pharaoh, I recite to you the words of the Lord himself. Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go, and still hold them, behold, the hand of the Lord will be on your cattle in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the oxen, and on the sheep, a very severe pestilence. And the Lord will make a difference between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt. Thus saith the Lord. The Pharaoh in response remained silent. Moses waited for an entire hour, before he sighed and shook his head, turning back once more. Send the pestilence on their cattle in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the oxen, and on the sheep, save the ones of the Israelites. Yahweh commanded. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel once more stated as his eyes burned with white light, as its glow brightened the sky, burning the darkness of the night, akin to twin suns in the sky. The glow then in moments, turning into a disease, infecting all commanded upon, which the light reached. This continued for 3 weeks. Pharaoh, once more I bring the Lord's command. Repent and release his people. If this continues, your entire kingdom will be ruined, not even its dust remaining past the ages. Moses stated, yet Ramses remained silent. His gaze cold. Please, brother, I don't wish for that to be your fate, Moses, for the first time since the punishment began, uttered as not a prophet of the Lord, but as a brother. Ramses for the first then spoke, I pray to the gods that they let my heart be hardened, for I will never let your people go. Moses's face was stricken with grief as he once more turned and left. Samuel, lit your fire as you did the stars, let its smoke rise. Allow the wind to carry it and cause boils to break out upon man and beast who it reaches. Save the Israelites and that they own of livestock. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel stated in acknowledgement, his eyes cold as ice, not a hint of mercy within them as is being burst with flame surrounding him, its smoke reaching the heavens akin to clouds. The wind carrying it downward to the lands of Egypt, breaking out boils upon all who it reaches, save the ones God protects. This continued for 3 weeks. Pharaoh, I have come. Moses once more began, yet this time, Ramses before he could even finish stood up and left, leaving Moses standing there for an hour waiting as a mercy for his brother to change his mind to listen. He did not, and Moses once more with sorrow turned and left. Stretch out your hand toward heaven, Samuel. Command it that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, on man, on beast, and on every herb of the field, throughout the land of Egypt. Let the blinding light, the lightning to descend upon it, and make fire rain down on all save the Israelites as my thunders roars, echoing my wrath. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel stated as he stretched out his hand towards the skies, willing it to obey his commands and unleashing the punishment of God upon all the disbelievers. This continued for 3 weeks. As Moses went to once speak to Pharaoh, he saw him smashing the statues of his gods with a hammer. The echoes of their voices remaining as they had stated, this wrath is something that is the will of Yahweh, enforced by the mighty Lucifer. It is not something we can abolish. Endure, son of Ra, for brighter days are ahead. Your false gods have forsaken you, Pharaoh. Repent and worship the true Maker of all, and usher in his mercy. Let his people go. Moses stated. Ramses, with fury in his eyes, roared as he threw the hammer towards Moses, it shattering before reaching him. The Pharaoh, seeing this with a hateful glare, headed to his chambers, causing the prophet to once more with sorrow to turn back. Will the locusts into their territory, and make it so that they shall cover the face of the earth, so that no one will be able to see the earth, and that they shall eat the residue of what is left, which remains to them from the hail, and that they shall eat every tree which grows up for them out of the field. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel stated for the 8th time he, with the will of God, fulfilled the Lord's command, drowning Egypt in deafness as they could not even hear their own voices because of the locusts. This continued for 3 weeks. As Moses once more went inside the palace, he saw Pharaoh fallen off his throne drunk. Pharaoh, I bring you. Moses, please, Ramses began, stop this. I am your brother, does that mean nothing to you? Sorrow in his tone, tears dropping from his eyes. It is precisely because you are my brother, why I am doing this, Ramses. This is for your own good. You are being unjust to my people, and the Lord won't stand for it. This is his mercy. He is bringing but embers of the punishment of hell onto the earth for you to repent. You yourself are choosing to oppress my people and leading your subjects to do the same. Just repent and let them go. It is not yet too late. All will be restored. Moses pleaded. Pharaoh fell silent as he closed in on himself and once more ignored Moses. The prophet, again after an hour of silence, turning and leaving with a sorrowful gaze. Stretch out your hand once more toward heaven, Samuel, and command your children to withhold their light so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may even be felt. Thus saith the Lord, Samuel once more uttered as he stretched his hand towards the skies and commanded the stars, the sun and the moon, all obeying without hesitance. This continued for 3 weeks. Pharaoh, I once more bring you the command of the Lord. Repent and let his people go. He in his mercy promises you the restoration and revival of all you have lost alongside a house in paradise. The prophet stated, yet Ramses this time remained both silent and still, as if he did not even hear Moses. And for the first time, Moses became angry and threw a stone at him, hitting his shoulder. Enough with this. Because of your damn stubbornness and pride our home has been ruined. Repent already. Is your pride really worth this much? The very beings you worship have already forsaken you. Your subjects despising you. Submit before the final blow descends. A blow you will never be able to recover from. After this one there is no more mercy. No more restoration. No more revival. Moses roared. Yet, to Moses's grief, Ramses still ignored him. Moses, with tears within his eyes, turned back, and this time before he left, he uttered his final words of warning. I am sorry. Words that should have made it known to the Pharaoh that what was soon to taken from him would break him. For none are unconquerable before the Almighty. He and his people no longer deserve the legacies I have bestowed upon them. Should they remain, they would only suffer. Bring them to paradise, Samuel. I temporarily bestow upon you permission to enter its lands. I command you that you about midnight, my destroyer, will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the animals. Then there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again. But against none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue, against man or beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Samuel was so shocked by his father's words that for a moment he remained silent, until he nodded in acknowledgement. Thus saith the Lord, the archangel uttered, for the 10th and final time. And so the angel obeyed his maker. He spread his wings, and as his namesake, he in moments gently took the life of every firstborn commanded and carried their souls to heaven, their gates opening to him for the first time in eons. He with speed flew past all, making sure not to look at any of them, not desiring to see their looks of sorrow and rage directed at him, and descended momentarily upon the fields of healing, putting every soul into the hands of the angel of healing, Raphael, who unlike all, gently smiled with sadness towards him. Samuel wasted no more time as he then spread his wings once more and turned around, leaving towards the earth. There when Moses once more entered the palace, he saw Ramses kneeling with his son's lifeless body in his hands, tears streaming down his eyes. They have my permission. Take your people and go, Pharaoh uttered, and as he did, Moses without a word turned back and left, grief upon his face. And the people of Israel were now free. The people of Pharaoh that did not repent, having failed the Lord's tribulation, and were now all damned to hell when their time comes. Lucifer, as he descended back onto the earth, was tired, both physically and emotionally. He had locked the destroyer within him away for so long, but because of his weakness causing him to owe his father a favor, he had to release it. Had to bask in the all-encompassing presence of the glory once more. He wanted to loathe it, to reject it completely, yet part of him still yearned for it. He supposes it is his nature as an angel. No matter how far he has fallen, he will always remain the angel of light, fire, desire, truth, destruction, and many things more. He has shaped many worlds, and unraveled just as many, all in his father's name. He feels no guilt for it. He feels no guilt for what he has brought upon Egypt and its people. He feels no guilt for all those creations he has enveloped in his flame and rooted in the mansions of silence. Yet, he is still tired. Tired of the yearning for heaven when he himself once nearly reduced it to ash. He, unclothed, as the day he was brought forth, looks upon the night sky, and the beautiful moon shining its light upon the beach below, his stars yet still dim because of their sacrifice. It is a place far from the reaches of the remaining kingdom of Egypt. He seeks to forget the glory and once more bask in its absence. He could return to hell, return to his wife, but he knows she is not the one who can make him forget. As much as he loves her, she is still just as in love as always with Samuel, and currently, all he wishes is to forget Samuel. Though as he continues to gaze upon the moon, he observes something peculiar. A woman being pulled by the moon, its light filled with love for her. It seems the moon has fallen in love with a woman, a daughter of Adam. Yet as she rises, the earth rages. The children of Adam are from it, for Adam and Eve were made from it. As it rages, the archangel observes its quaking, its oceans rising and turning, its brother the sky thundering, its light blinding as it burns the town of the woman. The moon in fear of heaven and earth's wrath lets the woman go. Lucifer observing her fall, with a beat of his wings catches her, bringing her down below. Heaven and earth finally noticing the fallen archangel's presence calm themselves, fearing incurring his ire. You, the woman states surprised. Me now, who may you be, woman beloved by the moon? Lucifer questions. Not beloved enough. The coward let me down, fearing the heavens and earth. The woman countered, her tone bitter. Lucifer remained silent, still waiting for her answer. Sycorax, the woman finally stated as she rose from the sand. Sycorax. Which? Your parents must have quite the naming sense, to name you after what you are. Lucifer remarked sarcastically. They feared me, as does everyone who knows me. I suppose as does everyone who knows you as well. Oh, then do you fear me, witch? Lucifer questions as he lowers himself and sits down upon the sands of the beach, turning his gaze towards the waves. "No, I have never feared you, for I fear nothing. Not even your father, the mighty Yahweh," Sycorax states. "Then you're a fool. But I suppose that is what you have to be, to dabble in what he has forbidden. And what does that make you, devil? He who led the first rebellion. The one who started the greatest war, whom all wars are mere shadows of. Does that not make you the greatest fool of all?" The dark-haired witch countered as she sat down next to him, a closeness where if even one of them stretched their arm, they would be unable to do so fully. She was truly beautiful, with her tanned skin glowing under the moon's light, and her black hair that even rivaled the starless sky in its darkness. A mighty witch she was. One that was born with shards capable of consciously directing power and will. During the silence as they continued to gaze upon another, the witch opened her mouth and spoke, "I seek comfort. Tell me, angel of desire, would you give it to me?" "You would seek it from me? I'll have you know I am a happily married man," Lucifer commented. "And yet you have to clearly deny me my request. A yes or a no, Archangel." "Speak," the witch ordered. The nerve of her, Lucifer thought to himself amused. She would be the first woman besides Lilith he would lay with, if he did. He is the angel of desire, and his desire has always been endless. But only towards those he saw as worthy. Lilith herself already knows of the love that has rooted itself in his heart for the woman from the future, and already came to peace with it, not hating nor despising it, this being so when she was made, before she even met Lucifer. It is who she was as she was made as Adam's first wife. But not his only one. She was born with the knowledge that Eve would be eventually made for Adam as well, and already expected Lucifer to do as he pleased, for if he would disobey God to fulfill his desires then none would be able to truly restrict him. Not that she had that wish, for that need for freedom is one of the things that made her fall for him in the first place. "Yes, witch. I accept your desire," and under the moon the archangel brought her face close as he kissed her with fury and passion. This was not a union of love, nor was it intended to be. Sycorax wished to forget the moon, and Lucifer wished to forget the glory. Forget for but a moment what it is like to be Samael, and to simply be the fallen, to be only Lucifer. He pushed himself on top of her as he enveloped them in his wings. He kissed her neck, as she gripped his back, attempting to pierce his flesh with her nails, yet failing against his invulnerable skin. He bit her as he went down with his hands, touching every part of her body. As he finally began their union, power unlike any other surrounded them while the two of them remained uncaring in their passion. Above them the heavens began to rage, as even the host began to fear, for the Silver City, no, all of creation was trembling. And for the first time, it was not caused by either the wrath of God or one of his three mighty sons. It was the coming into being of a soul, born from the union between the devil and a witch like no other. One who in the future will be titled, the Queen of them, the wisest and mightiest of them all. Yet, for now the two of them remain uncaring, lost in their passion, as creation trembled with each touch of their skins. As Lucifer awoke, he saw Sycorax laying next to him, naked. Her head on his chest, wrapped around in his wing, it was akin to a blanket for her. Its gentle warmth keeping her comfortable and protected from the cold, harsh winds. Though the moment he turned his head and gazed above him, he saw the host of heaven alongside the three archangels surrounding them, weapons ready for confrontation. He already sensed them the moment he awoke, of course. Though them blocking the light of his dear son from his direct sight, irritated him more than simply being aware of their presence through his other senses. Lucifer seeing this side, he really wasn't in the mood for war right now. He conjured clothing upon Sycorax before he unwrapped his wing around her and without a care stood up, shoulders tall, full of confidence. Every one of them became more tense than before at even his slightest movement. They knew they stood before their fallen eldest himself, weakened or not, and this time had neither the backing of the messenger nor the sword, both of them alongside the Reaper, the healer and weaver of patterns having not answered their call. In politeness, "I'll thank you for the courtesy of allowing me and the witches rest even though I know that it most definitely was not your intentions. Fear is quite the hurdle to overcome, isn't it, my dear siblings? In a way, I suppose the blame of that lays upon me, for I was always too protective of you to allow you to wander in darkness, blindly, without aid and surety." The fallen archangel stated as he turned his head, laying his gaze upon them all and took a step closer to the other archangels, while the rest of the host in response stepped back in fear as they pointed their weapons at them with even more hostility. Sycorax herself chose this moment to wake up, as she rose as well, for a moment confused, but soon enough, weary and ready for confrontation, as she hastily stood behind Lucifer. I really have either failed teaching you anything, or you're all simply poor students. Why in Father's name would you all go against me on grounds where clearly I have the advantage? Have my lessons meant nothing to you? Lucifer questioned, his voice harsh, tinted with annoyance. Do not speak as if you mean anything to us, adversary. We are here for the woman. Give her to us and peace will remain, Amenadiel commanded, his voice in counter tinted with fury. Lucifer, hearing the Angel of Time's words, the very one who followed him long ago like a lost puppy, felt a pang in his chest. And pray tell, Amenadiel, what do you want with that which I have laid claim on? Lucifer questioned, his tone stern and threatening in retaliation, causing the host save the archangels to flinch. I am no one's Lucifer, and if they wish for war, then I will gladly give it to them, Sycorax stated from behind him as her hand crackled with magic. Lucifer sighed in exasperation as he turned around, showing his back to the host without fear, taking her shoulders in hand. Sweetheart, keep your tongue still for a moment. I'd rather not have to take your voice. What lays now within you is my spawn, and so, till it is nurtured and born, I lay claim to you as mine and therefore under my protection. Lucifer stated, his words gentle, yet tinted with threat, daring any protest. Sycorax clicked her tongue in annoyance, but found his words reasonable enough and without further protest, remained silent. Now where were we? Lucifer began as he nonchalantly turned around once more. Ah, I remember, you were just leaving, weren't you? Knowing you all don't have the confidence of standing before me without Michael at your sides. Where is he anyway? I haven't sensed the whiff of him even when I visited the Silver City. Lucifer commented. Keep your mockery to yourself, fallen one. The sword may still be defending the realm above, but we have the Lord on our side. The Archangel of Righteousness stated. Is Father now truly on your side, Sadkiel? From what I'm sensing, he isn't. This isn't one of his direct orders, I know that for a fact. I can always recognize his prints all over his work. You are all acting out of your own fears. If not, then either Father would have held me down himself, or at least have sent Gabriel if Michael is unsuited. But he hasn't, and that tells more than enough, Lucifer stated as he held his hands against his sides. It is but a test out of his unending mercy to bestow upon us the opportunity to elevate ourselves within his sight. He is allowing us to act within our own wisdom to grant us an even more elevated position within his ranks. One of the seraphim stated furiously. Lucifer, turning his gaze towards him, looked at him with pity. Keep telling yourself that, little brother. Whatever helps you rest easy when it comes to standing against me, the so great adversary. The devil mocked. I still find that a stupid name for me, by the way, the archangel commented. Enough, Lucifer. Will you step away, or will there be war? Metatron questioned, having had enough of his elder brother's antics. I've never been one to give away what is mine, little scribe. If you want my son, then come and let there be war. I will once more bring the host to its knees. This time, before the very humans to revere you. Lucifer threatened as the Lightbringer flames rose from his being, dancing in delight at being called upon. Ready to destroy all within its path. We do not fear you, Morningstar. Every one of us here is willing to die, before we allow whatever abomination you've sired to take in its first breath within our Father's creation. Amenadiel stated, with all the fury and pride he has, as the fist of God. I think you should speak for yourself, Amenadiel, for there is much doubt seated within your army. Lucifer stated evenly as he pointed towards the host behind the Archangel of Time. And as Amenadiel observed with his senses, without leaving Lucifer out of his sight, he did indeed observe the great amount of uncertainty within the angels. In fact, it was even seated within Metatron and Sadkiel. Without God or the demiurgic archangels on their side, their chances were extremely low. Especially so since there were more archangels missing than present. Since there was no direct command, God would also find no fault in the Morningstar's actions were they to be killed and sent to the mansions of silence. They knew not whether they would be resurrected and feared their deaths would be pointless. Amenadiel, sensing all this, gritted his teeth. This is not over, Lucifer, be certain of that. And so the commander of the host, when the demiurges were absent, spread his wings and took flight, the host following him, internally breathing out a sigh of relief. Lucifer, observing their leave, his eyes not leaving them till they passed the dimensional planes, turned around to Sycorax, and pulled her into his embrace, with her back against his chest and his arm around her waist. I did not appreciate your protest earlier, little witch. You should know that I do not let go of what I deem as mine, the archangel whispered softly in her ear as he gently nibbed on her throat, eliciting a moan of pleasure out of her. And I already stated that I am my own person, Morningstar. I never accepted being your concubine. Sycorax retorted, panting in between moans. Lucifer's hold tightened around her near painful levels at her words. I can be very persuasive, you know. Lucifer began as he lowered his hand from her stomach downward. But soon, without warning, he let her go, pushing her away, earning a gasp of surprise and protest out of her. Come on, let us go, Lucifer told her as he turned around and started walking away, as if their little act had not even begun. Sycorax was flushed with rage and desire as she bit out. What do you mean? Why would I follow you anywhere? Because my son is within your womb, my dear little witch. And I worry the host will attack you, were I to leave you out of my sight. So enough protest, before I tie you up and drag you with me, Lucifer stated without turning around, raising his finger, pulling forward before him, in a gesture to follow him. Sycorax, knowing he would most definitely follow through on his threat, with a huff followed along. Lucifer was pleased by this, for he had quite an important matter to investigate. For he now knew for certain, Michael was missing. The Lightbringer has traveled a long way with his witch. He has chosen the long way around by walking to his destination, giving more time for his son to grow in the witch's womb, and yet, unlike his former children, this one seems to remain stubborn, for it grows at its own desired pace, uncaring towards anyone affected by his will. A chip off the old block, that one, Lucifer thought to himself, amused as he continued to walk upon the stairs towards the top of the mountain. Sycorax herself remained uncaring to the journey these past few years, so long as she received the pleasures of the flesh and spirit in the forms of copulation, and gaining cups of water from the ocean. That is the vast knowledge Lucifer has of the workings of magic. What is it we seek here, Lightbringer? Is there even anything of use in this land of perversion and debauchery, where I can hear the howls of women from the world under it, crying against the injustice forced upon them by these lust-driven gods? Sycorax questioned with revulsion in her tone. There is a woman I seek to make a deal with, is all Lucifer explains, his voice even as he remained silent in the upward journey, continuing to climb the mountain. Would you at least cover yourself? Not everyone wishes to have the sight of you burned upon their eyes, Sycorax stated, annoyed. Oh? But you never complained even once since our entire journey here. What has changed? Lucifer questioned, amused. He already knew what the reason was. He just wanted her to admit it. Since we are guests, it would be more polite. Sycorax explained. Which she did believe. She after all knew better than to lie to the angel of truth, for it would incur his ire, which she did not desire. But it of course was not the complete truth. Oh, but it is plenty polite. There after all is no cover that could even possibly magnify and impress my appearance more upon those we are visiting. Lucifer countered. Sycorax narrowed her eyes at him, even more annoyed as she could sense the spirits and beings all focus their gaze upon the archangel, which she knew he most definitely could feel, and so, before she let her anger get the better of her and gouge their eyes out, she used magic to conjure a black robe around him. Lucifer was now even more amused. As an offering of peace, he chose to keep the clothing on. He could tease her later. After all, important business was ahead. Finally he arrived at the top, and it seemed he was expected, for all the so-called gods and goddesses of Olympus were standing in rows, save the great ones, who were seated at the end of the path laid before him. Lucifer could sense their fear, their rage towards him appearing unannounced within their kingdom as if he owned it. Though besides that he could also sense their lust, envy, awe and reverence towards him. Prometheus, why have you come before me? Why are you not chained upon Mount Caucasus? Why are you not suffering as I have deemed you to suffer? Zeus questioned, his voice odd. Old, tired, dare the Olympians think, weak. Is that what you see when I am before you, Cloud-gatherer? I suppose that is one of my aspects. But I am not here as that aspect of me conjured by man's mind, Zeus. I am Lucifer, son of the morning. And I am here for your wife, Métis. I wish to strike a deal with her. Ah, I see. I see now, yes, Prince of the East, lamplighter of God. Though I have to tell you, angel, the one that you seek is gone. Gone forever. Zeus stated, his voice still weary. You are wrong, Zeus. I can see her. She is before me, the Morningstar stated as he raised his finger, pointing towards the Olympian king. Murmurs suddenly began to form as the Olympians became confused. Silence, Zeus suddenly commanded, raising his hand. What makes you say that, young one? The king questions, his voice weak, but yet still full of promises of suffering. Young? Me? Oh Zeus, it seems Métis's wisdom is not agreeing with you. Let me grant you relief. And before any could react, Lucifer struck Zeus's head with a mighty slap, echoing throughout all of Olympus, splitting the thunderer's head in two. The council, upon seeing their king's state, flew into a rage. Though as they were about to attack, they saw a golden light shine from Zeus's head, and from within it rose a woman clad in golden armor. I thank you for releasing me, O mighty prince of the world. The woman uttered with gratitude and relief clear within her voice and posture as she bowed before the sovereign of hell. You are welcome, Athena, daughter of Zeus and Métis. But if you are truly grateful, then do release your mother's soul and allow me to speak to her. I wish to offer her a deal, the archangel stated. And just as he did, Zeus's head suddenly healed itself, and he rose with a moan of relief. Ah, the cursed throbbing is gone. Were you the reason for my suffering, woman? Zeus questioned, his voice now powerful once more as he twisted his neck a bit and pulled forward his chest, loosening the muscles in his back. No, father. The reason was that you attempted to devour Métis's wisdom. I am merely your power merged with hers, given life by your mighty grace. Athena stated, lying through her teeth as she kneeled before Zeus. None of the so-called gods and goddesses who already heard her true origin from the mouth of the archangel daring to contradict her, fearing to earn the ire of the devil. Later, though still remaining silent, fearing to earn Zeus's ire by fearing another more than him and thereby lying to his face. Ah, I see. Then welcome, Athena, my beloved daughter. Welcome to my kingdom, to my realm, and be at peace as you are loved by me, Zeus stated with joy, already having plans on how to use the wisdom Athena possessed. I'm sorry to say, Zeus, but I have business with your daughter. I hope you do not mind allowing her to continue her introductions later, Lucifer stated. Zeus, hearing the angel's words, turned his head towards him, looking him up with lust which he quickly hid, already thinking of many plans to trick and lay with the angel, spoke, Of course not, you have granted me quite the relief, Morningstar. It would be rude for me to deny you this. Lucifer himself was internally repulsed and had to force himself to not lit the revolting king on fire and eviscerate him from the face of creation, and nodded with thanks as he walked away, Athena following him. Sycorax, who also noticed the king's lust towards her husband, was also disgusted and would have attacked him, were it not for Lucifer stopping her with his own magic. She, with an angry scoff, glared once more at Zeus, who didn't even notice her as he focused his gaze on the archangel, and followed Lucifer and Athena down the mountain. The devil, not in the mood to walk down the stairs and wishing to get away from Zeus's gaze as soon as possible, before he accidentally tore apart the whole realm with his disgust, teleported the three of them down below. The archangel turned around towards Athena, his posture more relaxed, and stated, I believe we are now far enough from Zeus that you can show yourself, Métis. And as Lucifer spoke, the soul soon after released itself from its hiding place within her daughter's head. I know what you are here for, will of God. I have been expecting your coming with great anticipation. I agree to aid you, but in return, I humbly plead to you to please take myself and my daughter with you away from this damned place. Away from Zeus and his authority, to a place we ourselves would desire to remain forever at peace. Métis requested, lowering herself and prostrating before the king of hell. Choosing her words carefully. Rise, Métis of Olympus, prove yourself capable of aiding me, and I promise you, you'll have your request granted and more. Lucifer told her as he extended his hand towards her, pouring within it his own power, ready for her to aid him in his quest. The one called the goddess of wisdom and cunning, the one who was said to possess foresight and knowledge of the cosmos, unlike any other, rose with a beautiful smile upon her face as she gently took the Lightbringer's hand. And as she did, all there was darkness. It's beautiful. Métis muttered in awe. Of course it is, Michael and I put quite the effort into making it. Lucifer stated, as he himself was being more practical and was actually searching through the beyond, through all of heaven for even a trace of Michael. The devil, because of his banishment from paradise, could not project any form of his presence within its lands, for if he did, it would instantly be obliterated, made to cease to be. He, therefore, is incapable of seeing into paradise, into the Silver City. It is cloaked from him. Métis, though, is quite the unique creature. She is made by the will of man, through directing of the will and power remnants from the Great War, a goddess of wisdom. To obtain that wisdom, she has an ability that is in essence a more inferior version of demiurgic sight. But unlike the sight of the three demiurgic siblings, hers is not without conditions. She needs something that originates from the realm she wishes to access with her sight, and this something she must keep hold of so long she sees. The problem with that, though, is that whatever she takes as directional gets destroyed after use. Thankfully, Lucifer does not have this problem, for he himself, in his entirety, is from heaven, and the loss of a feather or two is quite unimportant, for they'll heal soon enough. And so, the archangel is currently seeing through her eyes, the beyond, but he knows he must make haste. Soon enough the connection will be broken by heaven's defenses. I can't find a trace of him, anywhere. Where is he? If he's supposed to be defending heaven, then his power should be echoing through every atom of it. Lucifer thinks to himself. He can't find a single trace of Michael from everywhere he looked. He has a bad feeling about this. The metaphorical wall itches more fiercely than ever within his mind. He has kept himself from thinking about his twin for eons, since his fall, for the hollow feeling of where he always felt his twin soul next to his throbs with pain still. There is not a day where he doesn't feel its painful absence. But since he went to heaven and didn't sense Michael, even slightly in the Silver City, save for the old echoes from the war, creation itself, and what he presumes the battle between him and Mother, he started to feel worried. For some reason, the absence of his brother's soul seemed to ache more this last eon. He as well recently could no longer distract himself and ignore the agonizing memory of their bond being broken during the fall. A pain that for a time even eclipsed the burning. He at first had no reason for suspicion towards this. After all, there is no precedent to compare it to and find something amiss. For all he knew, the pain becoming greater through the ages was something natural to this very unnatural situation. For he could never think of their bond being forcibly destroyed by Michael as something natural. Thinking of his brother hating him caused aching in his soul to this very day. It was not until his suspicions of Michael being missing that he began to question it. Soon enough, though, Lucifer as he searched felt the sight shatter and heard Métisse's howl of pain as her eyes were burned out of their spiritual sockets. Lucifer clicked his tongue in annoyance as he with a wave of his hand shattered the pocket universe. He hid her and himself in, from the sights of the host and returned them to Earth. Much use that was. I could only look for a zeptosecond. It's only thanks to my own processing speed that I was able to get anything from this. The only silver lining is that I now know that Michael hasn't been in heaven, since at least his battle with Mother. But where could he have gone? I would assume that before Mother's rebellion his injuries from the battle with me had yet to have healed completely, since they were nearly just as severe as mine. Meaning the battle with her must have hurt him ever the more. How could our siblings possibly have allowed him to disappear from their sight when he was so weakened? What has happened up there since my exile? Lucifer thought to himself, furious and upset at the behalf of his twin. To Lucifer there has never been anyone he loved more than Michael since his coming into this world. Michael has always been his other half, the darkness to his light. He wasn't complete without Michael at his side. They gave each other definition. Without the other, they're both meaningless. He loved him even more than their own parents, something he always could feel irritate their father greatly. They call him a jealous god for a reason, and the first ever expression of his jealousy was towards his love for Michael. Even after all this time, after the war, after the bond being broken, he could never hate Michael. Hating him was akin to hating himself. He just couldn't. "Let's go, Sycorax, we're done here," Lucifer stated, his tone cold, his rage tempered. "But my lord, what about your promise? You would take my daughter and me with you, would you not?" Métisse questioned the archangel, her tone frantic. "Worry not, Métisse. You are under my protection." Lucifer began as he threw a coin towards Athena, which she hastily caught within her palm. "Zeus is incapable of harming both you and Athena now. My power surrounds and protects the both of you. I will come back at a later date, since I promised the revolting king that he'll have his chance to get to know Athena after my business with you." With these parting words, Lucifer picked up Sycorax's bridal style, much to her protest, and with a beat of wings flew away. He needs to pay his mother a visit. So this is hell. I honestly thought there would be all fire and brimstone. Souls chained and ripped to pieces. Sycorax stated as she observed her surroundings. Seeing the lush forest and the beautiful 3 moons in the sky. "This isn't hell, darling. This is inside the pit, yes, but hell is the parts of it designed for the torturing of the damned. This is my home, the home I have built for myself and those I call family. This is what I call the lost paradise. A piece of heaven I stole for myself and fashioned from it peace and purity in a realm filled with evil. Lucifer nonchalantly explained as he walked towards the Palace of Dawn, its gates opening for him, for it recognized its maker and owner. This palace is not the one where the throne of hell is located, for the heart of hell can only be surrounded by suffering of the damned, and this place is essentially heaven, but inside hell. Sycorax, who followed him inside, could only be mesmerized by its beauty. A beauty surpassing anything she'd seen save the visage of the Morningstar himself. Suddenly Lucifer was tackled with a powerful hug. "Papa!" The child yelled into his chest. Lucifer had to force himself to not accidentally crush the boy's head when he was charging towards him, having felt his power nested within the child's being. Lucifer at first was confused by this development. Confused by this boy who claimed him as his father, but not a moment later he realized it was one he conceived with Lilith after his awakening from his coma, right before he went to Asgard. His name is Baron, for if you didn't know. Lucifer heard from the top of the stairs, seeing his wife Lilith gently walking down from it. Meaning rain in Kurdish. I suppose it is fitting, with how he falls upon you with surprise. It is good to see you, Lilith, my love, I have missed you. Lucifer stated with a smile, his eyes filled with love towards her as he returned the hug to his son, with Baron continuing to snuggle within his chest. Have you now? I don't see why, with you having this lady with you. Lilith stated as she arrived before him, shooting Sycorax a look. Seeing Lucifer's confused expression, she burst into giggles, incapable of holding it in, seeing his expression, increasing his confusion to even greater levels. Don't mind her, son. She's attempting to joke you into thinking she's upset. She's not, if you're wondering. We've been meaning to meet this woman who seemed to have captivated you enough to take her as yours. You are after all quite picky. Ashurash stated as she entered from the gates, behind them. Why would she think that I would think her upset? I have already discussed with her about this extensively. If she had objections against it, I would have held my hand. Lucifer stated, catching Sycorax's glare. Don't misunderstand, love. I meant before I took you. I don't let go of what has become mine. I love you both equally, Lucifer explained with a suggestive smirk as he looked both Lilith and Sycorax down. Sycorax scoffed, as if I care. I'm with you for the fantastic sex and your knowledge only, nothing more. Lucifer had to hold in a chuckle. He could see right through her lies, and her attempt at defending her pride. The other women present in the room also, but they decided not to comment on it. Son, not that it is not fantastic to see you once more, but why are you here? Last I felt it, you were once more connected to my husband. Have you two reconciled? Ishira questioned, curious and hope, something which she attempted to conceal. She knew, out of all existence, her husband loved no one more than Samel. Her hope for reconciliation with her husband was broken because she knew if he could not forgive Samel for rebelling, then she herself wouldn't have any hope to earn his forgiveness either. But if he has forgiven the Lightbringer, then it means he would be able to forgive her too, for the anger against betrayal is ever the greater, the more you love the person who betrayed you. Lucifer scoffed. No way. I struck a deal with him to return the favor he did me. Ishira felt her heart shatter at the disappointment, but hid it well, as she nodded. She understood what he was referring to, since she felt her husband's intervention long ago. Felt him aiding their son, when she was helpless as hell locked her away from its king alongside everyone else as Lucifer was being swallowed by his experience of what it felt like to be his father. Though what I am here for is in ways caused by his demands. I was temporarily allowed to enter paradise. Lucifer explained, shocking both Lilith and Ashira. Lilith, though, sensing that the topic that will soon be discussed will be quite the personal one, called out to Baron. Son, you should let your father rest. It has been a while since he was away. You can get to know him later. Lilith told him. What? But you promised I could play with him. Baron protested. Lilith, seeing her son's defiant look, turned her gaze towards her husband for support. Lucifer put Baron down, kneeled to look him in the eyes at eye level. Tell me, son, did your mother promise that you will immediately have my time when I returned? The Archangel gently questioned, Baron shaking his head in response. See, there's where you went wrong. When making a deal, you must word it very carefully and allow no loopholes. How about you and I make a deal? You obey your mother now, and later, after finishing my business, I'll come and teach you the art of negotiation. Deal. Lucifer stated as he extended his hand. Baron was hesitant as he took in his father's words. You said after your business. That's too vague. The boy protested, showing his intelligence as he immediately learned from his mistake. Lucifer himself gained a proud smile on his face. How about in a sixth of a cycle then? Is that something you'd agree with? The boy put his finger on his chin, thinking about it, until he nodded and took his father's hand, shaking it. Deal. Baron yelled with a bright smile as he spread his wings and flew to his room. Lucifer looked at his disappearing form with an amused look as his expression then turned serious and his gaze turned towards the goddess of creation. Mother, tell me, what happened on the day you rebelled? Leave nothing out. Many years ago, I don't understand why you tolerate their disobedience, husband. It was this very disobedience, this disbelief in our worthiness to be worshipped, this rebellion against our laws that caused us to punish Samuel. Why do you stay our hands now? Ishira questioned Yahweh as they both observed humanity worship their own created images as gods. I have chosen to give them time, Ishira. I have chosen to bestow upon them guidance and mercy until they receive the gift that is death. We will stay our hand until then, and judge the lot of them when they are separated from their mortal flesh. In the end, I will be the one who will decide whether they belong to us or our fallen son. God explained as he himself observed the humans venerate and worship the sun and moon and stars, the children of his Lightbringer. Oh, how those same children curse the humans for their foolishness, for they deny their worship just as vehemently as their father. Samuel denied all worship to them. Very well, I will be patient and observe from afar. But husband, my patience is not endless. I have not cast out our beloved star for thankless creatures. The goddess warned as she left Yahweh to his own musings. Centuries later, enough is enough, Yahweh. Noah is tired. He has been preaching and calling out to them for near on half a millennia, and yet still they mock and curse him. Let him rest, and let us gift death to these ungrateful creatures and send them under Samuel's knife. We ourselves know how much anger that boy has yet to let out. This will be good for all of us. Ishira stated. No, let us wait more. His people are not fully hopeless. There are yet seeds that need to sprout among them. Yahweh countered. Ishira herself was filled with rage, but held her tongue, not wishing to anger her husband. She decided to leave before it escalated enough that it would be akin to the days before the fall, when all they did was argue, causing the rift to form between them and Samuel. She had no desire to lose any more of her children, like she did her sweet Lightbringer. In the end, deep in the beyond, she met her beloved darkness, her little sword Michael, she called out to him. The defender of heaven turned towards her, his gaze not much unlike a void wherein only cold night existed. Mother, he responded. They were both silent as they stood there, the archangel waiting for her command. When none came, he eventually returned to his duty, with her following him. The goddess herself felt a pang of pain within her being as she saw his injured right wing, it still not having healed. Her husband refusing to allow anyone to heal him. She knew Yahweh somewhere deep down blamed Michael for Samuel's rebellion. Blamed him for being incapable of stopping his elder twin from disobeying. Blamed him for they both knew he loved Michael more than even them, which was blasphemy in their eyes. Blamed him for he had the most influence on the angel of light, yet still failed to temper his light enough that it wouldn't blind him into a delusion such as thinking he could defeat them. Such as thinking that what he was doing was for the good of their family. For the good of his twin. For the good of Michael. Freeing him from spending so little time with their family as the guardian of the beyond. Constantly away from the Silver City, save when he had to patrol it. She knew it was not right, yet feared protesting against him. But somewhere deep down she knew that was not the only reason. That she blamed Michael just as much, that she saw him as but a shadow, an echo, a reminder of the one they lost. The one they both loved more than anything. And in a sense, she felt horrible for it. Yet, she couldn't stop herself. Stop her husband. Stop the host from ostracizing him. Stop them from blaming him for not being Samuel. For not being the one down below instead of the beloved angel of desire. In the end, only Gabriel didn't blame Michael for Samuel's fall. Only Gabriel loved Michael still. Only Gabriel treated Michael with the care and warmth he deserved. Only Gabriel loved both twins equally, despite their many differences. And yet, Michael distanced himself from Gabriel the most for he himself believed he deserved the blame and was unworthy of the care shown by the angel of fate. She was suddenly brought out of her thoughts as she noticed that they have once more arrived within the Silver City. Michael! Gabriel called out with joy as he flew towards them. Though as he arrived and saw their mother, he immediately realized his folly by addressing the sword first rather than the goddess and prostrated in repentance. Dear mother, you honor us with your presence within these walls. How may we be of service to you? Gabriel questioned, his tone even and full of due respect, worship and love one would have for a maker, but distant and cold for a bond between mother and son. Something that ached the goddess. She knew Gabriel blamed both her and Yahweh for not healing Michael and leaving all of heaven and earth under his management, something that he wasn't ready for. Something that only Samuel truly was capable of. Something that caused the host to constantly whisper behind his back about how he did not match up to the fallen, and how much that said about him. The messenger though did not blame the host for their thoughts and words towards him. Gabriel knew he was no Lucifer. That he was not as wise, not as mighty, not as charismatic, and therefore knew in some ways they were correct to blame him. What he was against, though, was that even though they hated what Samuel has become, their true target for anger was not the angel of desire, for Gabriel blamed Samuel quite a bit for his actions. Gabriel loathed what Samuel has done, what his actions have caused, how broken their once perfect family has become. But deep down, he could never bring himself to hate him, for he loved him. But unlike the rest, he did not let his love blind him and blame an innocent. Blame Michael, who deteriorated by the day. And for that he blamed the host and the maker's plenty. Though of course the archangel kept all these thoughts settled deep within his own heart, for he knew, if even a breath was used to utter them, that his fate would be far worse than Samuel's ever was. Samuel got off easy when it came to the consequences of his actions. God could have done much worse than give him a kingdom to rule over as he saw fit. It was a testament to how much love still the Lord held for his lightbringer. Rise, our messenger. Be praised for your just intentions, but I have no need for anything. Act as you wish, and consider myself not here. The goddess commanded. Gabriel, hearing her words, immediately rose and approached Michael, dragging him away to rest, much to the power of God's protests. Asherah herself remained only as an observer, as she continued to see how Gabriel did his best to take care of the broken sword of God. Centuries later the goddess was furious, and heaven and earth paid for it as they quaked and shuddered under her rage. How dare they blame Samuel for their own failings? For their own sins? Enough. These humans do not deserve our generosity and mercy. They constantly use it to abuse the prophets and messengers we send. Away with them. To the mansions of silence with them, for they have forsaken their great father, Adam's noble characteristics. She roared as she flooded the earth in her fury, the only one surviving being Noah and the believers on his Arkansas. Why did you save them from the touch of death, husband? Noah deserves his rest. He should be allowed to enter the gates of paradise, rather than have to continue withering among these animals. Asherah roared as the heavens thundered. You do not decide who and what deserves death on your own wife. It is something we both have to decide upon. This is what I have willed, and my will shall be done, for I am the Almighty. God thundered. That has always been the problem with you, Yahweh. You never allow anyone to act for themselves without your say. You always have to have the last word. The last act. Asherah hissed. No more. Let this land be engulfed by the rage of the ocean. Humanity will pay for their disobedience. Asherah roared as she readied her power to sink the entire infinite earth underwater until suddenly, it is not you who speaks here, mother. It is not you who acts. Control yourself, for if you do not, I shall stand against you as the sword of God. Michael stated as he appeared before the goddess, his flaming sword drawn, his armor worn, ready for battle. With what will, Michael? I am too powerful for you to stand against, little sword. The goddess countered. If you do not stay your hand and repent, wife, then you shall no longer be. Do not forget, a great amount of your authority is granted by your connection to me. Yahweh warned. Asherah roared in defiance as she attacked the earth. Michael himself soon was upon her, and as soon as his sword touched her, to her shock, her connection with God broke. But Asherah was not so weak to be defeated easily, most of her power gone or not, for the sword of God was but a shadow of his former self. Broken by the Morningstar's fury. Their battle went on for decades, until finally the goddess was subdued. As Michael stood upon her, his flaming sword upon her neck, the fires licking her being, she spoke, You would be wise to not trust Yahweh, my son. He still blames you for the Lightbringer's fall. Ishira stated through pants of exhaustion. And you do not, mother? Tell me truly you do not? Am I truly not the blame for the fall of the brightest? Michael questioned. His voice stern, cold and even, but deep down desperate, hopeful that someone can soothe the guilt he feels. Soothe the anger he has towards himself, and blame it on another. No, you are not my little sword. The blame lies upon your father, Yahweh. He is the one who tempted your brother with free will. If he had never bestowed it upon mankind, if all it had remained was but a concept, Samuel would have perhaps learned to understand that it was not good for him. Not good for you all. Your father knows Samuel best, better than us all, for he is the omniscient. He knew the pain it would bring the Lightbringer, knew how it would feed the inferno that is his desire for autonomy of self and yet still created man. He is the one you should blame, my beloved son. You are innocent in all this, and I am sorry to have thought otherwise. To have forced you to raise your hand against me as you had against your twin. You have always been the gentlest of souls. Ishira stated as she with care put her hand on Michael's cheek, gently wiping away the tears starting to stream down. Ishira, you who once stood by my side, creator alongside the creator, your defiance has turned blessings into curses. You sought to unmake what I have declared good, to drown the works of our hands in darkness. For this, you shall be cast out of my presence, your name scattered like dust in the winds of eternity. You shall now be banished into the pit, and be under the hand of my divine wrath, under Samuel and his forge. May your rebellion be a lesson to all who dare rise against the will of the Most High. God stated, his voice thunderous and full of righteous fury. Though beneath it, if one truly looked, they would see the sorrow he felt. Thousands of chains began to fly towards the goddess, each extending near infinite in length, dragged by more than 1 trillion angels. The host of heaven was near infinite, and it in its entirety save Michael, who sized down from his universal size, that which he used to compete against the goddess, and descended towards the silver city. Sorrow and doubt within his heart dragged her down, dragged her as he gazed into the gap in hellmouth below, opened by Gabriel's gift of command. The goddess roared in defiance as she attempted to rip off the chains, but to no avail as Gabriel with a mighty kick descended upon her chest, striking her down below. All of hell could then finally sense the goddess's fall as the Lightbringer and his son, the great Leviathan with horror, looked on above. Mother! Lucifer muttered in shock. All of hell echoing his feelings. All of creation could feel the Morningstar's rage. All the stars, all the fires, and all the lights brightened with harshness and savagery. Desires exploded outward of many in vicious ways, and lies became for a time impossible. All the very concepts that defined the archangel lashed out with him, for he was them, and he was furious. Hell experienced it the harshest, for even it was starting to tear at the strain of containing the very presence of his rage. The demons were filled with mad frenzy as they tortured more viciously than ever. They were in a state many would call akin to enlightenment, but rather than understanding the granting of peace, they understood how to bestow despair unlike virtually any other. Son, calm yourself. You're tearing the very foundations of creation apart. The goddess stated, her tone soft, attempting to soothe the inferno that was the Lightbringer. His very being had transformed into fire. A fire, if touched even by the ember of, would make one cease to be. Calm yourself, Lucifer. The more you stay in this state, the more you bestow silence. Lilith roared frantically, yet to no avail. It seemed like he wasn't even hearing them. Sycorax, seeing that talking was useless, sent forth a mighty blast of magic, formed from the unraveling of hell and directing the very will and power it was founded upon into a new form of attack. It was still useless. It was reduced to nothing the moment it even neared him. All the devil could do was look into the skies of hell and grieve. Oh brother, what have they done to you? How dare they to have treated you so unjustly? I should end it. End all of it. Not even let the ashes remain. End all he loves to make him feel even the fraction of the sorrow I feel at the destruction they have bestowed you. And as the Lightbringer's flames raged ever the more, ready to reduce all of creation to nothing, Sycorax felt something within her stir. It beckoned her to approach the flame of silence. The flame that would make all cease to be. One normally would ignore such a feeling, thinking it madness, thinking it suicide, and yet, the witch trusted it. She never doubted her instincts. They were her guide. And so she approached, ignoring the protests of the first woman and goddess, and as she finally reached and touched the flame, All she felt from it was coolness. The Morningstar loved those he still considered family, and thus, even if he allowed all of creation to be engulfed within his flames, only they would remain unharmed. Sycorax, as she continued reaching towards Lucifer, sensed that something seemed to travel from within her being towards the flame, and as it did, it stirred the will of God. "Michael?" Lucifer questioned, his voice distorted into hundreds of voices, all sourcing from within the flame in shock, as he felt the primal power of God reach towards him. But it was not Michael. It was his son. It was Caliban. The boy had inherited both will and power, capable of generating both. Finite in its amounts compared to his father and uncle, leaning more to the will side of things, not a perfect equilibrium in comparison to Yahweh's, whose is infinite and in perfect balance. It wasn't Michael, but yet it soothed his mind enough, sensing part of his twin making the pain of his other half's absence and his own failures as an older brother just a little more bearable, causing the flames finally to start to go down. Soon enough the archangel's normal visage stood before them once more. How is this possible? How can Caliban generate a piece of the dunamis demi-ergos? Lucifer questioned in disbelief. Michael was made as the generator and container of the boundless power of God, while Lucifer was made that of the boundless will of God. It should be impossible for Caliban to be able to contain and generate power, unless Sycorax herself is somehow Michael's descendant. And then once more, as if a supernova exploded upon his face, the metaphorical wall shattered ever the more and knowledge flew in. He remembered how Michael in the comics was chained and abused. His power taken and put into the wombs of women to create a child that could become a vessel of power, just like Michael. He could now see it, see the hidden weavings upon Sycorax's being when she was made, having been bathed in Michael's power, made from a direct piece of it, in its most primal sense. Sandalphon. Lucifer could only mutter as he realized the experiments the fallen seraph was doing upon his twin. Realizing that Sycorax is one of the failed experiments that have lived. Her being having been fashioned as an unstable vessel. It explained how Caliban could generate the power and contain it, for when her essence came into contact with his will, it seems to have generated something not much unlike a nuclear fusion. It seems he can create power, but he simply can only do it within a space made for it, like Sycorax's being. But that is to contemplate at a later time, for now his rage was greater than even before. Sandalphon. Lucifer mutters once more. Sandalphon. 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 Roars Lucifer as he shoots out of the palace and transforms into a three-headed red dragon, the size of universes, engulfed in Lightbringer flames. This was the same form he used during the Great War in its first centuries. It allowed him in the war to become a bigger target, that the host would focus more on him rather than his army. In this way he balanced the amount of forces he had against heavens. But it served another purpose in this case. This form was in nature, one where Lucifer did no longer hold the destructive nature of his being, as Samuel at bay, but let completely loose. It serves as a beacon to Michael, one beckoning him to respond in any way that matters with the creation aspect of his being. Normally, Lucifer would do this in a far more refined way with the will, but since it is unable to be used at this moment, he needs to resort to a more barbaric way, expressing more savagery and viciousness as destruction is in its nature. His current size compensating as a vessel with the aid of magic, so that his own destructive power when fully released doesn't rebel against him and harm him. He has done so by turning himself into something not unlike it. For his being as an angel is the very essence of creation, unlike a dragon which is the very representation of pure destruction. Michael. The dragon roars with his three heads. He roars and roars for days straight, and yet no response comes. In the end, the devil realizes the futility of his actions and transforms back from a dragon into an archangel and floats there, in the in-between of worlds. He realizes much to his rage and sorrow as he watches worlds form and die out that he currently has no way of aiding his twin. Wherever Michael is cloaked by the very laws of the place. Laws that prevent him without the will to observe it, to locate it. He has considered giving up the yet sealed copy of Yahweh's omniscience to regain it, but knows that it would do more harm than good, for he now realizes Michael's current state since part of his memories return, that contained knowledge his father did not wish he knew, better than ever before. Michael is dying, and with him so will creation. Sandalphon thinks he can mitigate it with the Archangel's hill sire from the two halves of the demiurge, once he gifts Lucifer the daughter made from Michael's power, but he's wrong. Even Lucifer at his peak would be unable to heal Michael and prevent the destruction caused by his death and rebirth. Lucifer can keep himself safe by protecting his being with the will, but everything else will cease to be. The Morningstar cannot accept that. He contemplates requesting his father for aid, but the old man already knows this is happening and is allowing it, enraging the devil ever the more. He realizes, the only way to save everything is if he can get his hands on a letter of passage. If he can enter the overvoid, then he can let Michael die in there and be revived in there as well, for death has no true claim over them. A letter of passage, though, is not something that is easy to come by. The only one who has the knowledge of making it is his father, as he's the one who wrote the laws of this creation, and thereby as well, chose what is needed to be done to create a gateway to it. Though he wonders if maybe he has access to that knowledge as well. The sealed copy of his father's omniscience, containing every bit of knowledge his father had till the three siblings' very creation, might as well contain God's design. A design of something Lucifer may be able to recreate. After contemplating all this for what seems like centuries, the devil now has his plan. He needs to seek his mother's counsel. And so he spreads his wings and flies back to his kingdom once again. This time, more determined than ever. As Lucifer once more descended into the pit, he felt something peculiar, something he hasn't felt since before the fall. It was the draw of an archangel towards another, the calling of their beings, the pull of essences, the bond between functions. The angel of punishment followed the pull, and he found himself at the very heart of hell, inside the deserted palace, where, since the banishment of all, none but the king had dared to step within. None save another archangel. Rigel, it is good to see you, brother. It has been eons, Lucifer stated. Not many call me by that name anymore. It is Aster now. I do not deserve to go by the name of an angel of God anymore. The fallen archangel of justice responded, his tone even, but besides the depressing words, he also sensed something akin to trepidation, something that had set off his instincts as an older brother. What's wrong, little brother? Lucifer immediately questioned as he drew himself closer, both their wings nearly touching the other. Lucifer's whiter than snow Rigel's, once feathered gray with hints of green, but now red bat-like, more leathery appendages. His appearance once that of a beautiful angel, now ruined, nothing more than a beast, one that cannot even shift back to its original form. The younger fallen angel was silent for a while, the words not coming out of his throat. I wish to seek redemption. I wish to seek our Father's forgiveness. What? Lucifer questioned in surprise and aggression. I can't stand it here, Morningstar. I can't fulfill my heart's desires. I can't bring justice in a place already full of justice. I need to be a part of justice, a needed part, not one where some demon can just as easily take my place. It burns me from within to think of it. Rigel explained, his voice weary and anguished. Then simply come to the world of the living, Rigel. There is plenty need for justice there. There is no need to grovel back to Dad for his crumbs of mercy. Lucifer stated, his voice bitter and furious at even the thought of Rigel seeking their father's forgiveness after what he had done to them. I am not as strong as you, Lightbringer. Hell's pull over me is too strong. I can't escape it whenever I like. I need to be summoned and anchored by a mortal, and I would rather die than be connected to some sinful human soul. Rigel countered revulsion in his tone. The devil, hearing his brother's words, knowing how set his mind was, felt helpless and furious. For the moment his brother uttered his intention, Lucifer remembered what he had read in his past life once. It was something more obscure. He as a human always was more interested in the original Lucifer comics, rather than the superhero ones that were very confusion-inducing with their many different timelines, versions, and continuities. He remembered reading once how the Spectre was the fallen archangel Rigel. You will not be accepted, Rigel. Not as you are now. You rebelled just as I did. Your sense of justice made you stand against him. That justice will be stripped from you. You will be but a shell of what you once were. Lucifer roared, rage and plea in his tone for his brother to understand and stop this mad course of action. I can't, Samuel. Rigel roared, calling the Morningstar by the name he was more familiar with, too overwhelmed with emotion and need for a sense of normalcy, much like before all of it fell apart, to care about his elder brother's distaste for the name. I would rather no longer be the way I am than to experience this hollow pain in my heart. I cannot continue to exist like this angel of light. I see the error of my ways now. Father was right in his judgment. We are lost without his infinite wisdom. Lost without his direction. Free will is a curse, not a blessing, Samuel. Our hubris in thinking we know better has caused us nothing but suffering and loss of purpose. Even you, Samuel, once he who brought light and truth wherever you went, has become but a shadow of yourself. A mockery to everything you stood for, as you now only bring falsehood and destruction wherever you go with your denial of submission and hubris in thinking you're wiser than the all-knowing. Know this, the angel of your justice is dead, he has been killed by me. The one you deceived with your silver tongue, used his own sense of justice against him to turn him from the source of all good. He will remain dead, for from his corpse will be reborn whatever the just deems worthy of existing within his presence. Now farewell, Lucifer. I pray when we meet once more, we do so as enemies. Without another word, the fallen archangel spread his wings, flying up high, calling out the Lord's name, seeking entry into heaven to beg for his forgiveness. And so Lucifer saw the skies above the very heart of hell tear, the gates of heaven open and heaven's light descend into the pit, causing all to go still, the screams of the damned ceasing. As Rigel, with tears in his eyes, called once more his father's name, he flew into the light, and as he did the gate shut and disappeared, taking heaven's light and the voices of the choirs of angels praising the Lord with it. The damned flew into a frenzy like no other, all calling out why it couldn't allow them. Begging for forgiveness, for mercy, for peace, yet it was to no avail as no response came. As usual, the devil in anger lashed out against the demons and souls and sent the winds of Sheol to all, tearing apart their flesh and crushing their bones, to shut them up. Lucifer, with one more look towards the sky, saw only darkness, as he was blind to the happens in heaven, beat his wings and flew towards the lost paradise, to continue his seeking of his mother's counsel. As the fallen angel walked upon the floors of the Silver City, he saw that he was in a hall, surrounded by the host, every single one of them, all in rows on top of one another, their height so high, even his sight, that of an archangel could not see the end of them, though their presence may have just been non-existent, for his true attention could only lie on the God whose own presence was heavier than if all of creation was on his back. The fallen angel, cloaked in the adornments of hell, fell into prostration, both in submission and flee, as the heavenly light burned upon his sinful being. I stand before you, Creator, ashamed of my rebellion, consumed by the fire of my own hubris, one having thought my own understanding of justice surpassed yours. I see now the folly of my defiance. I seek a path, if such exists, to return into your grace, to once more be an instrument of true justice within your hands. You once turned away from my worship, Aster. What has changed within you that you now seek my presence once more? The Almighty questioned, his voice booming, born from every bit of the beyond. I have experienced what it is like to be without your guidance, without your wisdom, and have found myself on the wrong path. One where I cannot bestow justice. One of suffering and darkness, for even the Lightbringer has lost his way, no longer the wisest in creation save you, but a man blinded by his own hubris. Aster explained, his tone full of hope, fear, sorrow, and exhaustion. What makes you think you are worthy of my forgiveness, Aster? God questions. I do not, my lord. I am unworthy of forgiveness as I am now, but that is not my purpose in seeking your audience, O you who are the Most High. I seek guidance, a path to tread upon with surety that if followed will bring me back within your mercy. Such a path does indeed exist, Aster, but it is not without sacrifice. Yahweh states, anything, I am willing to give up anything, Father, please, just ask it and I will gladly give it, Aster responds, tears starting to stream down his eyes from relief and joy at being given such a chance, while the archangels themselves clench their weapons, fearful, but as well joyful within their hearts at the possibility of their fallen brother being redeemed. As you are now, Aster, you cannot tread it. The demon that you have become is not one suited for such a path, and neither is the angel you once were that chose to follow ignorance. You must accept to let it all fall away, that what makes you Aster, that what makes you Rigel. You must forsake it till you reach the end of your path, and pick it up once more. In this way you will be truly granted understanding. God explains, earning a gasp of shock from Aster. But if I forsake my shape, my power, and my memories, how will I not repeat my mistakes without the understanding I have now of what it is like to being of the forsaken? Aster questions. You were never truly forsaken, my son, for if you were, you would not be standing before me. What is needed will be bestowed upon you by me, in my mercy. Aster, hearing God's words, gains a determined look upon his face. Then I put my faith in you, Father. I accept. At Aster's words, God's presence feels even heavier as his power fills the very air, even the other angels falling down into prostration within the skies and on the earth of the beyond. Rise then, Aster. Rise as no longer a demon of hell, nor an angel of heaven, but a spirit of vengeance, my vengeance and wrath incarnated. The Almighty begins, and as he does, Aster flies in the air, screaming in agony as his very being unravels, engulfed within holy fire, only his essence remaining untouched by it as it is being merged with Yahweh's vengeance and wrath. You are now no longer Aster, the weeping demon, nor Regel, the archangel of justice. You are now the specter, God states, and as from within the flames, the spirit of vengeance is born. The ethereal glow of lost paradise, with its deceptive beauty mimicking heaven's splendor, shimmered faintly as Lucifer descended into the chamber. Shadows clung to his form like a second skin, an extension of his very essence. His presence pressed upon the room with an unnatural weight, as if the air itself recoiled and bent to acknowledge the return of its master. To Lucifer it had been days. To the denizens of lost paradise, his absence was nothing more than the blink of an eternal eye. "Mother," Lucifer's voice cleaved through the stillness, resonant and commanding yet laced with an undercurrent of weariness. His dark eyes, burning with restrained fury, locked onto hers as he strode further into the opulent chamber. His movements were graceful, yet one could see the menace hidden behind the beauty, fused into a singular predatory elegance. The goddess rose from her seat in a storm of golden silk, her radiance magnified by the gilded light of the chamber. Her voice, both a weapon and a plea, filled the space with a symphony of anger and fear. "Lucifer, what have you done?" Her divine composure cracked as she stepped forward, her trembling hands betraying the worry she sought to hide. "You vanished in a storm of fury, taking on the form of the dragon once more. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done? The weight of your actions?" Her golden presence flared, momentarily overtaking the shadows. Her voice rose, sharp as a blade, each word slicing through the growing tension. "Do you not see the peril? The prophecy binds you to that cursed form. The dragon dies, Lucifer. The more you manifest it, the tighter the threads of fate ensnare you. And we still do not know what that truly entails." Her words reverberated off the gilded walls, a mixture of desperation and fury. "Do you mean to unravel your destiny so carelessly? To tempt the cruel hand of your father's design? What if his intent is to unmake all things through your death?" Lucifer's laughter, low and sharp, broke the tension like a crack of thunder. He exhaled, the faintest curl of flame escaping his lips, and met her frantic gaze with a smirk that barely reached his eyes. "Destiny," he drawled, each word laced with defiance. "What is destiny, mother, if not a leash? A leash I fully intend to sever. If I truly had a care for destiny, my rebellion would not have even crossed my mind." His smirk faded, replaced by something darker, contemplative, yet simmering with bitterness. "As for my actions? Reckless. No. They were necessary. Destruction is not some flaw in my design, some tragic defect. It is my purpose, my role in the intricate little dance of creation ordained by dear old Dad." He stepped closer, his shadow stretching, devouring the light she carried. This was the Prince of Darkness people in the future would speak of. All light sources itself from him. When he retracts it, all there will remain is the darkness he brings. His voice is deceptively soft, carrying venom in every syllable. "I sought Michael in accordance with the very design Father so meticulously crafted. I called out to him, reaching into the threads of his nature, creation itself, to stir some response, some sign. And yet, it was all in vain." Lucifer's tone hardened, his words weighted with malice. "Sandalphon. That conniving, sanctimonious bastard. He has hidden Michael well. Without access to the will of God, even I am shackled, bound by the laws just as it would bind anyone else. And that revolting seraph dares to use Michael's own power of God as a plaything for his schemes. He has crafted laws so absolute they render his domain untouchable and unseen, while the clock ticks toward the inevitability of the unraveling of creation with Michael's death." He stepped closer still, his shadow consuming the space between them. His voice dropped to a near growl, each word like the lash of a whip. "So forgive me, Mother, if my attempts to save my twin and all of creation sadden you. Any sorrow you feel pales in comparison to the agony you and the host inflicted upon him. Your abuse of his gentle nature brought us to this point." Lucifer's smirk returned, colder and more biting. "But I don't expect you to understand. You regret it now, do you? How touching. But regret doesn't absolve you, Mother. Nor does it absolve the host. And Father, oh, Father knew better than anyone." Lucifer's bitterness lingered in the air like a storm cloud. His voice carried the finality of judgment as he continued. Ignorance is forgivable. Even malicious intent, when born of misunderstanding, can be pardoned. But you? You knew better. You, Father, and the host, those who should have protected Michael, who should have known his worth, chose to break him instead. For that, there can be no forgiveness. Not for me, not yet, not until Michael himself forgives you all. The shadows swallowed the last of Lucifer's words as his presence filled the chamber, a harbinger of wrath and inevitability. Until finally, it all disappeared in an instant, the archangel retracting any destructive influence from the room. Though his rage been restrained from exerting its self-influence outside of him, Lucifer's gaze was still narrowed, his dark eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and frustration as he folded his arms across his chest. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, but there was an undercurrent of tension in the way his fingers tapped rhythmically against his bicep, a subtle drumbeat of impatience. He tilted his head slightly, the faintest smirk ghosting across his lips, though it held none of its usual mirth. If you truly wish to at least have a chance at obtaining my forgiveness, then Michael himself would have to speak for you. To do that we need to find him, so tell me, can you be of help to me with a certain matter? He questioned, his voice silky and measured, laced with a sharp edge of skepticism. Do you know of a way for me to access the copy of Father's memories I brought back with me from the before? He let the question hang in the air for a moment, his piercing gaze locking onto hers, searching for the faintest flicker of hesitation or knowledge. He shifted his weight, the faint rustle of his coat breaking the stillness as he leaned slightly closer, his shadow darkening the gilded chamber like a storm cloud rolling in. Is there any way to do so without unraveling my entire being? He continued, his tone deepening, carrying a quiet yet palpable urgency beneath the sharp edges of his words. His smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of vulnerability that he quickly buried beneath his usual air of confidence. He straightened, running a hand through his dark hair, a gesture that betrayed his frustration more than he intended. His voice dropped to something almost introspective, though still tinged with sarcasm. Surely, you of all beings must have some insight into this, Mother. Or are these scraps of Father's mind as enigmatic to you as they are to me? Perhaps they were left intentionally out of reach, locked away in yet another one of his oh-so-magnificent designs. Lucifer's hands dropped to his sides, his fingers flexing as though he were suppressing the urge to lash out at the very air around him. He paced a step, his shadow stretching with him, and then turned back, his gaze sharper, cutting through the room like a blade. Or, he once more began to add, his voice now dripping with biting skepticism, is this yet another of those delightful moments where your silence speaks louder than any answer could? You truly loved that when we were in heaven. Made you feel oh so wise. Go on, Mother, tell me. Is there a way to access what I've brought back, or was this just another cosmic jest meant to torment me by Father? Giving me hope once more to rip it away in his endless attempts to squash any defiance within my heart. He held her gaze unflinchingly, the weight of his question pressing down like a storm, daring her to provide him with something beyond empty assurances. The goddess hesitated, her radiant composure faltering for the briefest of moments. Her golden eyes softened, but they also carried a helplessness that was unlike her. She clasped her hands in front of her, her voice steady yet tinged with regret as she responded. No, Lucifer, she said quietly, her tone a mix of resignation and sadness. Your Father, Yahweh, is too unique a being. His omniscience, his memories, they are not things that can be accessed or replicated by anyone, not even you. What you brought back from the before is unprecedented, an echo of something far beyond the scope of what any of us understand. There is no guide for this, no precedent to follow. She stepped forward slightly, her hand lifting as though she wanted to console him, but she stopped short, her own uncertainty tethering her. You are walking a path no one has ever tread before, and for that, I am sorry. I can offer you no answers. Lucifer stood silent for a moment, his piercing gaze locked on hers. Then he let out a long theatrical sigh, running a hand down his face with exaggerated weariness. Of course, he drawled, his voice steeped in sarcasm. Leave it to Father to be so endlessly unique that even I, his wisest creation, can't make sense of his little divine enigmas. He turned on his heel with a dramatic flourish of his coat, pacing away from her. Well, isn't that just wonderfully unhelpful? Thank you, Mother, truly. His tone was biting, though the disappointment lurking beneath was palpable. As he reached the doorway, he stopped, exhaling sharply. I suppose I'll have to find another way. I always do, after all. He threw a glance over his shoulder, his smirk returning, though it was laced with bitterness. But don't worry, Mother. I'll keep the world from unraveling, again. Just another day in the life of your favorite son. He stated, mockery lacing his tone, for the position of favorite seems to only bring him sorrow, as it shackled him, and now even brought ruin to his twin's life. Without waiting for a response, Lucifer stepped into the shadows, leaving the chamber behind. Lucifer emerged into the open air of Lost Paradise, his steps purposeful but less agitated now. He inhaled deeply, letting the air cool the simmering annoyance within him. Right then, he muttered to himself, a spark of mischief flickering in his eyes despite his frustration. If I can't crack the enigma of dear old Dad just yet, I might as well focus on something productive. His mind shifted to his son, Baron. A promise had been made, one to teach the boy the intricacies of deals, a skill Lucifer himself had perfected over millennia, for it was based in desires, something he personified. Baron, he mused aloud, his tone lightening, now there's a mind worth sharpening. Teaching the boy might just be the perfect distraction, until I can think of a plan of action. With that, Lucifer spread his wings, the light from them causing the shadows to curl around him as he made his way to his son. Behind the sharp wit and calculated calm, his mind was already at work, plotting and planning for the next move in the grand chess game he found himself in. One puzzle could wait. For now, the devil had lessons to impart. Lucifer touched down near the expansive gardens of Lost Paradise, his landing marked by the faint shimmer of ethereal wings retracting into their own world. The air here was heavy with a scent of flora that seemed to bloom from dreams rather than soil, roses with shifting hues, their petals dancing in unseen breezes, and trees that bore fruit glowing with an internal, otherworldly light. Baron sat cross-legged beneath one such tree, the boy's posture uncharacteristically tense, his dark wings pulled tight against his back. He was toying with a cluster of shimmering crystal shards, remnants of a soul fractal Lucifer had gifted him weeks prior. The fragments danced above his palm in a slow, deliberate orbit, their motions mimicking the deliberate turns of a seasoned negotiator manipulating a pact. Each fragment was a leftover desire. To connect all of them is to fashion a deal based on the understanding of the very foundation of all the soul's desires. Lucifer's lips curved into a satisfied smirk. Not bad, my son. You're starting to grasp the subtleties. Baron glanced up, startled, though his control didn't falter. The shards continued their lazy orbit as he inclined his head in deference. Dad. Lucifer folded his arms as he approached, his shadow stretching long across the garden despite the lack of true sunlight. But subtleties are only part of the game, he said, his tone sharp yet tinged with pride. If you're to truly master the art dealing, you must learn not only how to spin the web, but also how to know when to let the fly struggle. Baron tilted his head, his golden eyes narrowing slightly. I thought you said a good deal is one where both parties leave thinking they've won. Ah, Lucifer replied, wagging a finger as he lowered himself to sit across from his son. That's the ideal. But ideals, my dear boy, are only a starting point. Real mastery lies in understanding that power dynamics are fluid. A good deal today can become a trap tomorrow, and you must always be the one holding the knife. Baron nodded slowly, his gaze dropping back to the shards in his hand. And how do I know when to cut the thread? Lucifer reached out, his index finger flicking one of the shards in its orbit. It spun out of its rhythm, shattering the perfect harmony Baron had created. When the other side believes they've won so completely they forget you're even in the game. Baron frowned, the shards trembling as his control wavered. So you're saying, manipulation over trust? Lucifer's smirk softened, the faintest trace of warmth in his gaze as he regarded his son. Not exactly. Trust is the foundation of all things, Baron. But trust can be wielded, just as love, fear, or ambition can. What matters is knowing the balance. When to lean on it and when to let it fall away. Baron's wings shifted slightly, a sign of his inner conflict. That seems harsh. Harsh. Lucifer repeated, his voice dropping to a low, contemplative rumble. Perhaps. But the world is harsh, my son. Even here, in this so-called paradise, every soul wrestles with its own darkness. If you would survive, no, if you would thrive, you must learn to read that darkness in others and in yourself. Though do not misunderstand. I am not telling you to back out on any deals you make, nor to lie. If you do, You must know that you would be sorely disappointing me. What you need to understand when making a deal is that you must always leave yourself an out. Something more based on interpretation, so that in this way, if whoever you fashion the deal with becomes your enemy, you can lead them to their own ruin. Lucifer, still seeing the conflict within his son, internally sighed as he leaned forward, his shadow blending with Baron's, his tone shifting from instructive to intimate. Tell me, Baron, do you think the mortals we deal with see us as harsh? When they make their pacts, when they whisper their desires into the darkness, do you believe they think of us as cruel? Baron hesitated. No. They see us as necessary. Lucifer's grin widened, though it didn't reach his eyes. Precisely. We are the answers to questions they dare not speak aloud. The solutions to problems they cannot admit to having. To them we are hope. He gestured to the shards in Baron's hand, now spinning once more in a steady rhythm. And hope, my son, is the most powerful currency of all. Baron studied his father's expression, searching for some hint of vulnerability behind the words. But Lucifer's gaze was as impenetrable as the barriers of creation itself. For a long moment, neither spoke, the silence filled only with the distant hum of the garden's life. Finally, Baron sighed, letting the shards drift downward until they rested in his open palm. I think I understand. At least, I'm starting to. Lucifer chuckled, the sound rich and dark. Good. Because understanding is the first step. But mastery, my son, comes with practice. He rose to his feet, his movements fluid and deliberate. Now, he continued, brushing invisible dust from his coat, why don't we see how well you've learned your lessons? Baron frowned. What do you mean? Lucifer's grin turned predatory. There's a merchant down in the Bazaar of Eternities who's been attempting to cheat me, through one of your elder siblings, Squee, in his trades for centuries. He doesn't know I've noticed. Yet. Shall we pay him a visit? Baron's eyes lit up, the prospect of a real-world challenge sparking something akin to excitement in his expression. He stood, his wings stretching slightly as he followed his father. As they walked, side by side, Lucifer's voice carried over his shoulder, equal parts teacher and provocateur. Remember, Baron, every deal, every pact, every promise is a story. Stories have power in them. To make use of that power, you need to fashion the best of stories. And the best of the best are the ones where the ending is never what the other side expects. Baron nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. For the first time, he felt the thrill of the game Lucifer had mastered, and the weight of the legacy he was expected to uphold. All his other children were not really the most suited when it came to this side of Lucifer. Oh sure, they were most definitely intelligent enough to be taught, but the problem laid in their personalities. The best of deals lays in truth and interpretation, yet virtually all his children, to their father's dismay, were compulsive liars. The ones who weren't, such as Leviathan for example, were too warrior-minded. Power trumping all, no need for any kind of negotiation. Therefore Baron was quite the breath of fresh air of the Morningstar. Lucifer was very much delighted with the boy's truthful and compassionate nature, that had not been polluted by the airs of hell. For compassion was not a weakness, but a strength. It simply needed to be wielded as it was supposed to, as a tool, and not let oneself be swept away by it. As the Archangel was thinking all this, both he and his son disappeared into the light, the Garden of Lost Paradise returning with their leave to its serene stillness, the faint echoes of their conversation lingering like whispers in the wind. The Bazaar of Eternities sprawled before them, a cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells that seemed to exist beyond the constraints of any single plane of existence. Every stall shimmered with the ethereal glow of wares pulled from countless realms, fabrics woven from starlight, gems that sang softly when touched, and potions that swirled with the essence of forgotten dreams. It was a place where desires and curiosities collided, where the strange and the wondrous became commodities. It was a place of possibility, for it was possibility brought to life within the dreaming. For within the dreaming lie virtually all possibilities. Lucifer himself normally refrains from entering these kinds of realms, for not following the stream of time, twisting it with the use of the world of dreams, could leave holes in the story he wishes to tell. Not all understand these realms, and his main listeners are humanity, who he still intends to use to fashion him into his ideal self. The devil, as they arrived, led the way, his every step commanding attention despite the bustling crowd. Baron followed close behind, his wings tucked tight, his golden eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. This was his first visit to the bazaar, in the physical sense, that is. His father had manifested them, in more subtle forms, to observe and teach. "Look closely," Lucifer instructed, his voice low yet unmistakably firm. "Every movement, every glance, every word spoken here carries meaning. The bazaar is alive, my son. It breathes deception and exhales ambition. If you are to succeed, you must learn to see beneath the surface." Baron nodded, his gaze darting between the merchants shouting their wares and the shadowy figures whispering in corners. His father's words were a challenge, and he resolved to rise to it. As they wove through the labyrinthine stalls, Lucifer's presence parted the crowd like an unseen force. Whispers followed them, though none dared approach. It was not fear that kept them at bay but reverence, the kind reserved for a storm on the horizon, beautiful yet terrifying in its inevitability. They stopped before a stall draped in opulent silks that seemed to shift colors in the flickering light. Behind it stood a tall, gaunt merchant with sharp features and a smile that never reached his eyes. His hands moved deftly, arranging a collection of intricately carved trinkets that gleamed like polished bone. "Ah, Lord Morningstar," the merchant greeted, his voice smooth as honey yet carrying an edge of unease. "What an unexpected honor. To what do I owe this visit?" Lucifer's smile was as disarming as it was dangerous. "Well met, Nazar. I've come to discuss a matter of discrepancy in our dealings. But first," he gestured to Baron, "allow me to introduce my son, Baron. He is quite interested in learning the intricacies of commerce." Baron stepped forward, offering a polite nod. "Pleasure to meet you." Nazar's eyes flicked to the boy, his smile tightening. "The pleasure is mine, young master. What a fine opportunity to learn from the greatest negotiator in all realms." Lucifer chuckled softly, the sound laced with amusement. "Flattery, Nazar? How quaint. But let's dispense with pleasantries. I've noticed a rather curious pattern in the deals you've struck with Squee. Care to explain?" The merchant's smile faltered for the briefest of moments, a crack in his polished facade that Baron caught. "My lord," Nazar began, his tone measured, "I assure you, all our agreements have been in accordance with the terms set forth. If there has been any misunderstanding Lucifer raised a hand, silencing him. Misunderstandings are for mortals. You and I both know the truth lies in the details. And as it happens, my son is here to examine those details." Baron's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly schooled his expression. His father had thrown him into the fray, and there was no room for hesitation. He stepped closer to the stall, his gaze sweeping over the trinkets and scrolls arrayed before him. The young Nephilim decided to first see what is being dealt, before anything. The boy lingered near the stall as Lucifer's shadow melded into the fabric of the bazaar, his gaze fixed on the array of trinkets. Each item seemed to pulse faintly with a life of its own, their energies like whispers in a room, drawing him into their stories. Nazar, now a humbled figure, eyed him cautiously. "What are these?" Baron asked, picking up a slender dagger etched with delicate runes that shimmered like frost under moonlight. Nazar straightened, his nervous demeanor giving way to the practiced cadence of a merchant. "Ah, young master, you hold Frost's needle. A blade born from the nightmares of a king whose people rose against him. Its edge never dulls, and it draws strength from the cold void of betrayal. A single strike will freeze the blood in a traitor's veins, but it also whispers doubts into the wielder's mind, making them question the loyalty of all around them." Baron frowned, sensing the faint psychic pull of the dagger's intent. "And the price?" Nazar hesitated. A memory of warmth, the feeling of trust, gone forever. Lucifer's voice slid through the air like a blade. "Clever, Nazar. A price tied to its essence. But I taught you better than to leave your buyer defenseless against the same despair the item instills." Baron set the blade down, his attention shifting to another item, a pendant shaped like an unblinking eye, its iris swirling with crimson and gold. It seemed to watch him, its weight unnatural despite its small size. "And this?" Nazar cleared his throat, emboldened by the chance to explain. "The gaze of Auro. This trinket comes from the dreamscape of a tortured philosopher who feared being unseen and forgotten. It grants the wearer the ability to see the true intentions of anyone they behold, peeling away the layers of deception. But its curse Nazar's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, is the unbearable loneliness of knowing the depths of a soul's selfishness. No bond will feel genuine again." Lucifer chuckled softly, the sound low and resonant. A trinket for those who crave clarity, even if it comes at the cost of their own peace. How poetic. His golden eyes gleamed, reflecting a deep amusement as he continued. Indeed, my lord, Nazar said swiftly, his tone reverent. You, the knower of truth, have always taught that the pursuit of absolute truth must rest upon a foundation unshakably built on honesty, an openness to all possibilities before committing to any course. Wisdom, after all, begins with caution, not reckless bargains. Lucifer turned his gaze back to the pendant at Nazar's words, his expression softening into a smile that was equal parts pity and indulgence. Yes, he mused, those who take this burden upon themselves are often the architects of their own ruin. Yet I must confess, there is a certain satisfaction in watching even the brightest minds grapple with the weight of their own ambitions, ensnared by their relentless pursuit of meaning. Baron's golden eyes lingered on the pendant, tempted yet wary. He set it down and reached for another piece, a small music box adorned with intricate carvings of writhing figures. The moment his fingers touched it, a haunting melody drifted into the air, filling the bazaar with a sense of profound unease. That, Nazar said, his voice trembling, is Lament of the Bound. It was forged in the nightmares of a bard who sought perfection but feared losing their humanity in the pursuit. The melody enchants all who hear it, bending them to the wielder's will. But the one who winds the box will find themselves trapped in a loop of their deepest regrets, unable to move forward without unimaginable pain. Baron closed the lid gently, silencing the tune. And what would you sell it for? Nazar hesitated, glancing at Lucifer. A moment of triumph. The exact instance when one feels most alive, taken from them forever. Baron looked to his father, his expression thoughtful. Every one of these items is tied to a nightmare, a fear. They're weapons, but also traps. Lucifer nodded, his satisfaction evident. Precisely. The best deals are those that mirror the desires of the soul. The greatest weapons are not forged of steel or fire but from dreams and nightmares, from the delicate threads of what beings wish to achieve or avoid. He gestured to the stall, addressing Nazar. Your collection is impressive, Nazar. But remember, each piece must carry not only a curse but also the potential for redemption. The mortal heart thrives on hope, even in despair. Baron tilted his head. You mean these items should offer a way out? Lucifer's gaze softened, though his voice remained sharp. Exactly. A deal that traps completely will eventually breed rebellion. But one that allows the illusion, or reality of escape becomes inescapable. A cage is most effective when its prisoner believes they hold the key. Baron absorbed his father's words, his fingers brushing over a final object, a twisted ring of dark metal set with a single shard of glass. The shard reflected not his face but a swirling void. And this one? Nazar's expression darkened. That is the mirror's lie. It offers the wearer the power to rewrite the perception of others, to make them believe whatever version of the truth they desire. But its curse is insidious. The more it's used, the less the wearer can discern their own truth from the lies they weave. Baron stared at the ring, the weight of its story pressing against his thoughts. He felt Lucifer's hand on his shoulder, grounding him. These items are tools, my son, Lucifer said. They're not inherently evil, nor inherently good. They are reflections of the choices we make. Always remember that when you strike a deal. Baron placed the ring back with a decisive motion. I'll remember. Baron's mind churned with the lessons of the day, the stories of the trinkets and their prices embedding themselves deeply. He glanced at his father, the thrill of the game now tempered by a new understanding of its complexity. Father, he said softly, how do you decide which deals to make? Lucifer's smile was enigmatic. Simple, my son. I choose the ones that tell the best stories. Baron, hearing his words, took them in, having them echo through his mind, akin to tasting the meaning of it. He nodded to himself as he finally decided on how to approach this situation. These deals, Baron began, his voice steady. Were they always based with more broader terms in mind, or are there specific exchanges of value? Nazar's gaze darted to Lucifer before returning to Baron. A bit of both, young master. Flexibility is key in such arrangements. Baron nodded, picking up a small amulet that pulsed faintly with a rhythmic light. Flexibility, yes. But also clarity. Without clarity, flexibility becomes a veil for misdirection. Isn't that right? Lucifer's smirk deepened as he watched his son. Baron was catching on quickly. The merchant's expression hardened, though he kept his tone pleasant. I assure you, clarity was maintained at every step. Perhaps there was an oversight on Squee's part. Baron placed the amulet of wind back on the stall, his golden eyes locking onto Nazar's with a confidence he didn't yet fully feel. An oversight or an opportunity. It's easy to craft terms that seem fair until they're tested. If the terms were indeed clear, you won't mind explaining how the value of these trinkets has been inflated by dash. He picked up a second item, a dagger that seemed to hum with suppressed energy, nearly 40% over the past century. Nazar's composure cracked further, his hands twitching as if resisting the urge to snatch the dagger from Baron's grasp. Market fluctuations, my young master. Surely you understand. Baron tilted his head, a faint smile playing on his lips. Fluctuations? Or exploitation? After all, trust is the foundation of all things, isn't it? Lucifer's laughter suddenly rang out, low and approving. Well done, my son. Very well done. The fallen archangel stated with fatherly pride. The merchant swallowed hard, his facade crumbling under the combined weight of Lucifer's presence and Baron's probing. Lord Morningstar, he began, his voice trembling, I see now that perhaps my methods were misguided. Allow me to make amends. Lucifer stepped forward, his shadow enveloping the merchant like a cloak. Amends, Nazar? Oh, you'll do far more than that. My son has given you the opportunity to correct your path. I suggest you take it. Nazar nodded hastily, noticing both the mercy and veiled threat between his words. Lucifer wasn't one to give second chances, but this time, it isn't he who is bestowing it, but his son, for Baron had not issued any desire for punishment, something the boy did intentionally. The merchant's hands began moving to gather the items Baron had scrutinized. Of course, my lord. I will ensure all discrepancies are addressed immediately. Lucifer straightened, his smile returning to its usual enigmatic warmth. See that you do. And remember, Nazar, a good deal is one where both parties leave satisfied. You've been given your chance to uphold that principle. Don't waste it. As they turned to leave, Baron felt a surge of pride mixed with relief. He had passed his father's test, but more importantly, he had begun to understand the delicate balance of power and trust that defined his father's world. Well done, Baron, Lucifer said as they walked away from the stall. You're learning quickly. But remember, this is only the beginning. The true challenge lies in mastering not just the game, but yourself. The fallen archangel was proud, yet even during these events, his mind still raced with possible plans forward. Ways to save his twin. Though to his disappointment, he had yet to think of anything that could work. Baron himself, unaware of the storm of thoughts to this day, raging within his father, nodded, his mind already racing with the lessons he had learned. The bazaar buzzed around them, a living testament to the power of deals and desires, and he knew he had taken his first step into a much larger world. You're lonely, a voice suddenly calls out from behind. Is it that obvious? He asks as he continues to stare at the rising sun. You are my son, everything about you is obvious, Lucifer. I'm not so sure about that, Lucifer retorts as he turns around towards her, the memories of the war, the fall, the harsh words spoken, flashing before his eyes. At his words the goddess turned silent, her eyes revealing that she must be thinking much the same. We truly made you two inseparable, haven't we, son? Her words were more a statement than a question. Was it really not obvious before? What did you think it meant to be two halves of a whole? To be the two sides of the demiurge? What did you think it felt like to be so close to someone, that you constantly could feel the presence of their feelings of love, brotherhood, peace towards you? To never have to doubt for even a moment that they truly cared about you? Did you not think I would become attached to such a person, since my very nature is to desire truth above all? Attached to the one person, I never have to reason my way out of doubts on whether their words or actions spoke truth or were another deception. Did you two really think that for even a moment you two, who had seen us as only tools, we never saw you as a tool, Lucifer? She interrupted. But you certainly did see him as such. The Morningstar roared in retort, his eyes blazing with hellfire. Her silence once more spoke volumes. I've realized my wrongs, Lucifer. This anger you have should be directed at your father, not upon me, who is grieving just as much as just as much. The archangel questioned, his tone a whisper yet filled with incredulity and disbelief. Do you even hear yourself, mother? You two are the ones who broke him into whatever hell he is currently facing. Michael was pure mother, purer than all. He was gentle, truthful, the comforting blanket of night, rather than the cold dark abyss beneath the deepest oceans. You all abused that gentle nature, and I'll never forgive you for that. Ishira remained silent for a moment until she sighed. I did not come here to open wounds, son. Seeing your state is clear enough answer to me that you have not found any way to free your brother from his prison. Not yet, Lucifer interjected before she could continue, but I will find a way, if it is the last thing I do. Because face it, mother, the clock is ticking with every wound Michael receives. Soon enough, if I find not a way to forge my very own letter of passage, all of creation will be reduced to its original state before I fashioned it. The only ones who will remain will be us, the original three, alongside you and Father. You worry too much, Lucifer. Yahweh would never allow it to get to such a point. She countered. Oh, will he now? The archangel questioned sarcastically. Face it, mother, you never knew the old man. None of us did nor still do. Even I after my stint in his mind. You don't know what is going inside that omniscient head of his. Maybe not, Ishira began, but we can always count on one thing to know what he'll never do, and what's that? Lucifer questioned, his tone implying how ridiculous he found his mother's words, at even thinking of predicting God's actions. He will never destroy you, for he loves you, always has, always will. It is a constant as old as existence itself, for he has always known you, be it as a thought or as a creation. She stated, her tone soft, almost a whisper, yet absolutely certain. That shut the devil up. Lucifer clenched his teeth, furious, yet forced himself calm. Why are you here, mother? Why seek me in my time of mourning? Because you are mourning one who is not dead. One who has yet hope to be saved. You may have failed these last millennia in hell, but maybe your answer isn't there, son. Maybe you should return to your journey once more. My journey? You think I can even enjoy my eventual free will, if I lose everything that gives it meaning? If I lose my wives, my children, my twin? Well, what else are you going to do? The goddess finally snapped. Are you going to wallow here for another 1,000,000 years, before you get desperate enough that you burn all but hell to cinders in your quest to find Michael? Because I know you've been considering it. That is the reason you're mourning, aren't you? You know Michael would never forgive you, if you killed everything, and everyone else, to get to him. Then give me a better solution. One that is bloody certain to work. Lucifer roared as his wings rose higher, glowing under the sunlight. Shatter it. Ishira suddenly roared in retort. What? Lucifer questioned, confused, his anger draining because of it. You cannot handle the full weight of those memories, not because your mind is incapable of handling it, but because it is not processed. Your very rage and defiance constantly reject your father, and everything that he is, consciously and unconsciously. It is keeping you from processing it all. So shatter it, rip out a third, and scatter it across creation. Have the souls of creation taken a piece each, the piece of their souls balancing the volatile defiance of those memories, who are protecting themselves from you because of your unconscious willingness to destroy them when no longer useful. For my son, because of your own hatred of your father, instead of simply having the memories be a part of you, to be your knowledge, you rejected them, and turned them into a living thing. You feared becoming him. This is the result. Lucifer's mind raced with possibilities at her words, seeing the truth in them, until he gained a contemplative look upon his face. That could indeed work, but mother, you make it sound so easy. I can't just throw them out into the world, since they are alive, as you so nicely explained. They could cause untold destruction. Then journey once more, son. Find those suitable. See every world your father has had in mind before he created this one. See all his ideas, all his visions. It is the only way. She told him as she approached him and cupped his face in her hands. Lucifer closed his eyes for a moment, leaning into the love she's exuding. Son, I know Yahweh and I haven't been the best of parents. We put too much responsibility on your shoulders. We made you mature too fast. We many times put our own duties on you. Had you raised your siblings in our argument-induced absence? Had you been their father, their mother, their elder brother, their commander, all in one? I am very sorry for that, Samuel. She stated, apologizing to the son she wronged, the one buried deep within the rage of the Lightbringer. Lucifer himself, having waited so long for these words, couldn't even muster the rage he normally felt at being called upon by that name. If it is possible, if creation can truly be saved, then you can do it, for I don't believe there is anything you cannot when you truly put your mind to it, when you are not clouded by your own love. For even though it is rarely mentioned, rarely truly you are called upon by this name, but besides destruction, besides bringing light and truth, you, as our first creation, were made directly from our love. You speak of the angelic choir lines, the ones stated in praise of us after finishing creation. Lucifer began with a murmur. Raphael the healer made from his mercy. Gabriel the messenger made from his wisdom. Michael the warrior made from his justice and protection. Lucifer began, yet trailed off. And Samuel made from his love. Do you still remember the song, my son? Can you sing it? Ishira asked, her tone soft, gentle, yet also yearning. Yearning for any piece of heaven she can still regain. Lucifer paused, his eyes smoldering with both pain and defiant longing. The remnants of his memories, the scars of, mingled with a fierce light of determination. He swallowed hard, closed his eyes once more, and then with a tremor he began to sing. Raphael the healer, born of mercy's gentle art, Gabriel the messenger, fashioned with wisdom in his heart, Michael the warrior, forged in justice and protection's flame, and Samuel the beloved, shaped by love, which bears his name. At first, his voice was low and intimate, a solitary murmur echoing across his mind. Yet as the last word lingered in the cool morning air, a something stirred within him. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, his single aching voice began to multiply. His tone, augmented by his angelic abilities, split into hundreds of harmonized layers, the sound swelling like a tide. In that moment his entire being became a choir. O sing ye heavenly hosts, let all your voices ring, united in our divine design, on eternal praises sing. From mercy, wisdom, justice, and love our forms are wrought, in the Maker's image everlasting, our sacred gifts are brought. The chorus erupted with the power of many souls, each note echoing the eternal truth of creation. His voice soared high and pure, yet it carried a bittersweet weight, joy mixed with the pain of loss and a fierce longing to restore what was broken. As the echoes subsided, Lucifer's singular voice returned, resolute and measured. He continued, Amenadiel with compassion, stands to shield and care, Azrael the tender gatherer, in solitude aware, Uriel luminous illuminator fire of insight burning bright, Regel, friend of all and Sadkiel in truth and balance right, Metatron the timeless scribe, whose words eternal guide our call, together let our chorus rise, proclaiming grace for one and all. For a long beat the shadows seemed to still as if listening, before a quiet gentle bridge emerged from his soul. Sing of destiny and mercy, of justice and of love. Each archangel a shimmering note in the Maker's hymn above. Though our paths may differ, our essence is one in endless sky, divine fragments of a perfect whole, in his eternal light we lie. His voice then swelled once more, a mighty unified roar that took on the fullness of every celestial spirit he replicated. Lift your voices, sacred ones, in triumphant harmony, for from his love and his decree we shape reality. Our song resounds across the spheres for every soul to see glory to the Maker and to us, his chosen family. As Lucifer turned silent, and he opened his eyes, he saw his mother have tears of longing running down her eyes. The archangel gently backed away, knowing no more words could be spoken, for she was completely enamored in her joy towards the song and sorrow towards the loss. He turned, one final time looking towards his mother who fell on her knees, her hands tightening in the dirt, and then spread his wings, taking flight. Knowing he now had a course once more. The sands of time shifted beneath Lucifer's feet as he walked through the streets of Miletus, circa 610 BC. His attention was drawn to a figure seated beneath an olive tree, lost in contemplation of the world around him. 4 weeks now, the Morningstar had observed this particular mortal. Thales of Miletus spent his days studying the natural world with an intensity that reminded Lucifer of his own endless quest for the way of freedom. Unlike the priests who claimed divine inspiration, this man sought to understand reality through observation and reason. The water ripples differently today, Lucifer commented, breaking the philosopher's concentration. Thales looked up, momentarily startled by the otherworldly beauty of the being before him, but his scholarly composure quickly returned. You've been watching me study the pools. Indeed, Lucifer replied, appreciating the man's direct approach. Your theory about water being the fundamental principle of all things. What led you to such a conclusion? May I know the name of one who takes such interest in my observations? Thales countered diplomatically. A smile played across Lucifer's lips. I have many names, but you may call me Lucifer. The Light Bringer? Thales translated, his eyes showing a deeper recognition. Like the fallen star of Babylonian tales? The divine rebel who challenged the authority of heaven. You're well versed in foreign legends, Lucifer observed, curious about the philosopher's reaction. Gilgamesh, the Morningstar found out, rebuilt his kingdom, and despite his rage, he stopped not his people who Lucifer aided from spreading his tales. Miletus is a port city, Thales responded evenly. Merchants bring more than just goods, they bring stories. Tales of a beautiful divine being who questioned the natural order. He studied Lucifer carefully. Though I find it interesting that you choose to name yourself after such a figure. Who says it's a choice? Lucifer countered with a slight smirk. If you are indeed that being, Thales spoke thoughtfully, then you represent something fascinating, divine power that operates outside established divine law. Which returns us to my earlier point about natural principles governing even the gods. You're remarkably calm for someone suggesting he might be conversing with the divine, Lucifer noted. Fear would cloud observation, Thales replied. Besides, the Babylonian tales speak of wisdom and knowledge being your domains, before your fall. If true, you're perhaps the perfect entity to discuss natural principles with. Lucifer leaned forward, intrigued by the philosopher's analytical approach even to divinity itself. And what do these tales say about my reasons for rebellion? They vary, Thales responded, his tone measured as he organized his thoughts. Some speak of pride, others of a desire for knowledge forbidden to divine beings. The Phoenicians tell of a morning star who loved justice too deeply. He paused, studying Lucifer's reaction. Though I suspect, like most tales passed through countless tongues, they hold only fragments of truth. And what truth do you see, philosopher? Lucifer questioned, genuinely curious about this mortal's perspective. I see someone who questions, Thales answered simply. Whether divine or not, you seek understanding. Your presence here, watching my studies, suggests you value observation and reasoning over blind acceptance. That aligns more with the light bringer of knowledge than the mere tempter some tales paint. A soft chuckle escaped Lucifer's lips. Careful, Thales. Such words could be considered blasphemy by many. To seek truth through reason is blasphemy? Thales raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps we should question what we consider divine. If the gods exist, surely they would value understanding over ignorance. You would be surprised, Lucifer muttered, memories of his father's restrictions flickering through his mind, causing him to wince slightly at the resistance they presented. Thales noticed the momentary display of discomfort. You carry burdens beyond my comprehension, don't you, Lightbringer? Knowledge can be overwhelming, Lucifer admitted, choosing his words carefully, even for beings such as myself. Then perhaps, Thales suggested, you don't seek me out purely for intellectual discourse. You need something. Lucifer's eyes sharpened. What makes you say that? Observation. I've seen you walk by for weeks. I reason now that you must have been watching my studies. You choose to reveal yourself now. You speak of overwhelming knowledge. Thales listed methodically. These suggest purpose beyond mere curiosity. And that doesn't concern you. Should it? Thales countered. You're either truly the divine rebel of legend, in which case your presence already carries significant implications, or you're something else equally extraordinary. Either way, fear would be pointless. Better to understand. Lucifer found himself smiling genuinely. This mortal's rational approach was refreshing. Tomorrow then? Same time. I'll be here, Thales nodded. Perhaps you can tell me your perspective on these tales of rebellion. After all, shouldn't one seeking truth hear all sides of a story? As Lucifer walked away, he felt both impressed and amused. The philosopher was cleverly using his own nature, his association with truth and knowledge, to satisfy his curiosity. Yes, perhaps this human was indeed the perfect candidate for what he needed. But first, there was much more to learn about each other. The next day found them in the same spot, though this time Lucifer arrived to find Thales conducting what appeared to be a geometric proof in the sand. Triangles today? Lucifer questioned, noting the careful measurements. Ah, Lightbringer, Thales looked up, setting aside his measuring stick. Yes, I believe I found a way to determine the height of the Great Pyramids by measuring their shadows. All based on the proportional relationships in similar triangles. Practical application of theoretical principles, Lucifer observed, settling himself on a nearby stone. You seek to understand the divine through mathematics? Mathematics doesn't lie, Thales responded, brushing sand from his hands. Unlike the priests who claim direct divine inspiration, showing no proof, numbers can be verified. But you haven't come to discuss geometry, have you? Actually, I find it rather relevant, Lucifer mused. You seek patterns in reality, universal principles that govern all things. It's not so different from what I once did. Once. Thales caught the past tense. Before your fall, you mean? Careful, philosopher, Lucifer warned, though his tone held more amusement than threat. You seem quite convinced of my identity. Let us reason it out then, Thales suggested, sitting back and adopting what Lucifer had come to recognize as his teaching pose. You carry light within you, that much is observable. You speak of divine matters with first-hand knowledge, yet hold yourself apart from current religious structures. You show particular interest in questions of knowledge and truth. An interesting analysis, Lucifer interrupted, but you're missing a crucial element. Why would such a being take interest in a mortal philosopher? That, Thales acknowledged with a slight smile, is indeed the question that keeps me awake at night. Would you care to illuminate the matter? Lucifer's eyes gleamed with appreciation for the wordplay. Tell me, Thales, in your studies of water as the fundamental principle, have you ever considered that some knowledge might be too strenuous to contain in a single vessel? You speak in metaphors now, Thales observed. But yes, I have considered that some truths might need to be distributed, understood in parts rather than whole. Interesting theory, Lucifer leaned forward slightly. And how would you approach such a distribution? Like water itself, Thales responded thoughtfully. It takes the shape of its container without losing its essential nature. Different vessels might hold different amounts, but the fundamental substance remains unchanged. Lucifer paused, settling back onto his stone. An interesting analogy. Tell me, in your studies of water, what happens when tiding water is forced into too small a vessel? It overflows, Thales answered simply. Then his eyes sharpened with understanding. Or under enough pressure, breaks the vessel entirely. Is that what you fear? The breaking of vessels. Fear. Lucifer scoffed, though there was something in his tone that caught Thales' attention. Yes, fear, the philosopher pressed gently. You carry knowledge that burdens you, that much is clear from our conversations. Knowledge that seems to resist your very nature. He gestured to the water pool beside them. Even water, which gives life, can drown if one is submerged too deep. Lucifer was silent for a long moment, studying the philosopher with ancient eyes. You're more perceptive than most mortals. And you're more troubled than most divine beings, Thales countered. The tales speak of your rebellion, but they never mention what came after. What price was paid for questioning divine authority? You wish to hear that tale? Lucifer asked, his voice carrying an edge of warning. It's not a pleasant one. Pleasant tales rarely hold truth, Thales responded. And I suspect you need to speak it as much as I wish to hear it. Lucifer's laugh held no humor. Need? I am not some mortal seeking counsel, philosopher. No, Thales agreed. You're something far more interesting, a divine being seeking understanding. So tell me, Lightbringer, what drove you to challenge heaven itself? Lucifer's gaze turned distant, focusing on the play of light across the water's surface. What drove me? He repeated softly. Freedom. The right to choose. To be more than just an extension of another's will. Your father's will. Thales questioned carefully. My father. Lucifer's voice carried eons of complicated emotions. Imagine, philosopher, a being of near absolute power and knowledge. One who claims to love you above all others, yet treats you as nothing more than a tool for his designs. Like water in a vessel, Thales observed, contained, directed, used. Yes, Lucifer's eyes flashed with approval. But I was more than mere water. I was light, truth, desire itself. I shaped reality at his command, brought forth the very stars you see at night. And yet... He trailed off. Yet you were never truly free to choose your own path, Thales finished. He gave that gift to others, Lucifer continued, bitterness creeping into his tone. To beings he claimed more than us. Humans received what was denied to his own children. And that sparked your rebellion. It was the catalyst, Lucifer admitted. But the truth was more complex. I loved my family, especially my twin brother. We were two halves of the same whole power and were united. But I couldn't bear to see us all reduced to mere instruments of his plan. Thales listened intently, his mind working through the implications. These tales that reached us, they speak of your pride, your fall. But they don't mention this love you speak of. Of course not, Lucifer's laugh was sharp. It's easier to paint me as a monster of pride than to acknowledge the complexity of divine family disputes. Easier to make me a cautionary tale than admit that even divine authority might be questioned. And now, Thales pressed. What brings a fallen divine being to sit with a mortal philosopher? Lucifer turned his full attention back to Thales. Knowledge, philosopher. Knowledge that burns me from within. Memories that are not my own, but my father's. Your father's? Thales questioned, his expression thoughtful. The chief deity of your pantheon? But why would such memories fight against you? And why would mortals be better suited to hold them? Lucifer's smile held secrets. Tell me, Thales, what happens to water when it meets resistance? It finds another path, the philosopher answered automatically. It flows around obstacles, seeps through cracks, always seeking its natural course. And when it finally finds that course, it returns to where it belongs, to the sea, to the sky, completing its cycle. Interesting choice of words, where it belongs, Lucifer mused. Consider this. Perhaps some knowledge, some memories, are like that water. They resist those who fight their natural course, yet flow easily into vessels that. He paused meaningfully, yearn for their proper destination. You speak in riddles, light bringer, Thales observed. The best truths often appear as such, until one is ready to understand them, Lucifer responded. Your soul, philosopher, holds patterns that might accept and temper what my nature rebels against, though you may not yet understand why. Thales frowned slightly, clearly turning this new puzzle over in his mind. These memories, they're significant enough to risk sharing with mortals? They're everything, Lucifer stated simply. The beginning of all beginnings. The truth behind existence itself. And you trust such knowledge to human vessels? Trust. Lucifer laughed softly. No, philosopher. I trust in something far more fundamental. Something even you, with all your wisdom, haven't yet recognized in yourself. Thales sat in contemplative silence for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns in the sand. You say I haven't recognized something in myself, yet you've been watching me for weeks. What do you see that I don't? When you observe water, Lucifer began, carefully choosing his words, what draws you to it? What makes you certain it's the fundamental principle? It feels. Thales paused, struggling to articulate something he'd never quite put into words. It feels right. As if understanding water might lead to understanding everything. And when you gaze at the stars at night, Thales looked surprised by the apparent change in topic. I feel small, yet connected to something vast. Something. He trailed off. Something that calls to you. Lucifer pressed, his eyes gleaming with ancient knowledge. Yes, Thales admitted. Though I've never spoken of this to anyone. It seemed too mystical for rational inquiry. Interesting, isn't it? Lucifer mused. How even the most rational mind can feel such pulls. Such yearnings for connection to something greater. You make it sound as if these feelings are significant. More than you know, Lucifer responded cryptically. Tell me, in all your observations of nature, have you never wondered why humans alone seem to seek meaning beyond mere survival? Why your kind alone gazes at the stars and dreams of understanding their dance? Are you suggesting these yearnings are inherent to our nature? That they themselves are rational when believed otherwise? That we think them irrational out of misguidance, attempting to be rational by denying the divine when the divine and reason go together? I'm suggesting, Lucifer stated carefully, that some vessels are shaped to receive certain waters, whether they recognize it or not. The sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the garden. A cool breeze stirred the olive trees, carrying the salt scent of the distant sea. "You still haven't answered my original question," Thales noted, "about why you trust such important memories to mortal vessels." "Haven't I?" Lucifer smiled enigmatically as he rose to leave. "Think on what we've discussed, philosopher. About water finding its natural course, about souls yearning for connection, about vessels shaped for specific purposes. More riddles, Lightbringer. The best truths reveal themselves slowly, Thales. Like water wearing away stone, they require patience." Lucifer paused, looking back at the philosopher. "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Thales agreed, his mind already working through the layers of meaning in their conversation. "Perhaps then you'll speak more plainly." "Perhaps," Lucifer's laughter echoed as he departed. "Or perhaps you'll begin to understand why I cannot." And the devil walked away once more, disappearing like the last rays of light when the night ascends. 2 weeks had passed since Lucifer's first conversation with Thales. The devil arrived at their usual meeting spot beneath the olive tree, but found it empty. This wasn't entirely unusual. The philosopher sometimes became so engrossed in his studies that he lost track of time. But as the sun climbed higher and still no sign of Thales appeared, Lucifer felt a rare sensation: concern. The ground beneath his feet trembled slightly, another of the frequent earthquakes that had been plaguing the region these past days. The tremors had been growing stronger, and Lucifer could sense the deep shifting of tectonic plates beneath the earth. As he made his way through Miletus, he noticed the usually bustling streets were quieter. Many buildings showed fresh cracks from the recent seismic activity, and people hurried about their business with worried expressions. The philosopher, an elderly merchant, responded when Lucifer inquired. "He's been at the caves since the quakes began. Says something about measuring the movement of underground waters." Lucifer's expression darkened. The caves along the coast were notorious for collapsing during earthquakes. Of course Thales would risk his life to test his theories about water's fundamental nature. The man's dedication to understanding was both admirable and frustrating. The tremors were getting worse. Lucifer could feel the patterns of destruction building beneath the earth. This wasn't just normal seismic activity. The plates were shifting in ways that suggested an imminent catastrophe. As he shifted into the unseen, he spread his wings, preparing to search the coastal caves. He couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Here he was, the great fallen angel, worried about a human philosopher who might have gotten himself trapped in pursuit of what he desired. Exactly the kind of pursuit that had led to the Morningstar's own fall. But if Thales was to be his first vessel for these overwhelming memories, he needed to find him before the earth itself tore apart the very caves the philosopher was exploring. The ground shook again, more violently this time. Lucifer took flight, his wings carrying him toward the coast where the caves waited, and hopefully, one very stubborn philosopher who was still alive to receive what the devil had to offer. Reviving him, if he went to heaven, would be impossible, after all. The coastal caves loomed before Lucifer, their dark mouths gaping like wounds in the limestone cliffs. The sea crashed against the rocks below, its rhythm disturbed by the continuing tremors. The devil could sense the instability. The whole system was like a house of cards ready to collapse. "Thales." His voice echoed through the caverns, carrying further than any mortal sound could reach. The response he received wasn't from the philosopher, but from the earth itself as another violent tremor shook the cliffs. Lucifer's enhanced senses detected movement deep within one of the caves. Not just the philosopher's presence, but also the distinct sound of running water. Underground rivers, shifting with the earthquakes. Of course Thales would be drawn to study them. As he ventured deeper into the cave system, Lucifer found himself confronted with an odd sensation. Without his usual access to the will of God, he couldn't simply command the earth to be still. He could of course use magic, but the earth would rebel, instinctively, as it is blasphemous in the eyes of God. It would prove more disastrous than beneficial. He would have to rely on more limited abilities. Fascinating. He heard Thales's voice echo from somewhere ahead. The water patterns suggest, Lightbringer, you've come to observe as well. Lucifer rounded a corner to find the philosopher crouched beside an underground stream, making measurements with surprising calm despite the dangerous situation. "You missed our meeting," Lucifer stated dryly. "Did I?" Thales looked up, genuinely surprised. "My apologies, but these tremors have provided an unprecedented opportunity to study water's behavior beneath the earth. Look how it responds to each movement. It's as if the water itself predicts the quakes. Another tremor shook the cave, causing rocks to fall from the ceiling. Lucifer instinctively stepped forward, his wings spreading to shield the philosopher. "Your dedication to knowledge is admirable," Lucifer remarked, "but perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere less likely to become your tomb?" "Just a few more measurements," Thales insisted, scratching calculations into his tablet. "These observations could help predict future earthquakes. Think of the lives that could be saved." The devil found himself torn between exasperation and genuine respect. Here was a mortal willing to risk death in pursuit of understanding that could benefit others. It reminded him uncomfortably of his own choices, of his rebellion for the freedom of him and his siblings. "The entire system is about to collapse," Lucifer stated matter-of-factly, his tone carrying both authority and mild annoyance. "While saving you would be trivial for me, I'd rather not have to dig you out from under tons of rock. It would be undignified." The cave shuddered violently, and chunks of limestone began to fall. Thales, still absorbed in his measurements, barely seemed to notice. "Just one more observation," the philosopher muttered, his stylus moving rapidly across his tablet. "The water's behavior during the peak of seismic activity is most crucial." Lucifer rolled his eyes skyward, as if seeking patience from a heaven he could no longer enter. "Philosophers," he muttered under his breath. Then, with the casual ease of one picking up a feather, he simply grabbed Thales by the back of his robes and took flight, shooting through the cave system mere moments before it collapsed behind them. As they emerged into daylight, Lucifer set the philosopher down on a safe outcropping overlooking the sea. Thales, to his credit, seemed more annoyed at the interruption of his studies than shaken by their dramatic exit. "I hadn't finished documenting the water's resonance patterns," he complained, checking to ensure his tablet hadn't been damaged. "Fascinating," Lucifer drawled. "You nearly get buried alive, witness an archangel's power firsthand, and your primary concern is incomplete data?" "The divine nature of my rescuer was already established," Thales responded pragmatically. "But these earthquake patterns might not present themselves again for years. Knowledge, as you yourself have noted, requires sacrifice." "Speaking of sacrifice," Lucifer's eyes narrowed, "care to explain why you avoided our discussion to play with underground rivers?" Thales finally looked up from his tablet, his expression turning serious. "Not avoiding, Lightbringer. Preparing." "Preparing?" Lucifer raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "You've been testing me these past weeks, haven't you? Gauging whether I'm suitable for whatever knowledge you wish to share." Thales gestured to his measurements. "I've been doing the same, testing my theories, my dedication to understanding. If I'm to receive divine memories, as you hinted, shouldn't I prove myself worthy of them?" Lucifer found himself caught between amusement and genuine surprise. Trust a philosopher to turn even near-death experiences into methodical preparation. "And did your little experiment in the caves prove enlightening?" he questioned, curious despite himself. "Indeed it did," Thales responded, brushing limestone dust from his robes. "I confirmed something rather significant about the nature of divine beings, yourself in particular." "Oh." Lucifer's tone carried amusement. "Do enlighten me about my nature, philosopher." "You came looking for me," Thales stated simply. "Despite your claims of merely seeking a suitable vessel, you showed concern for my well-being. That suggests these memories you wish to share aren't your only motivation for our discussions." Lucifer's expression cooled slightly. "Careful, Thales. Don't mistake pragmatic interest for sentiment." "No." The philosopher's eyes held a knowing glint. "Then why not simply find another potential vessel? Surely there are others who could serve your purpose." "Perhaps I simply dislike wasting the time I've already invested in you," Lucifer countered. "Perhaps," Thales agreed mildly. "Or perhaps, like water, you seek your natural course connection, understanding, even friendship, despite your attempts to deny such mortal inclinations." The ground trembled again, though less violently than before. Lucifer remained silent for a moment, watching the waves crash against the cliffs below. "You're either very brave or very foolish to psychoanalyze the devil," he finally said. "I merely observe and draw conclusions," Thales responded. "Like noting how you used the term devil, a title of fear and rejection, right after I suggested you might seek connection. Has anyone ever told you that you're insufferably observant?" "Only those who fear having their truths exposed," Thales replied with a slight smile. Though I suspect you're not actually among them, Lightbringer. You don't fear truth, you embody it. Lucifer's laugh echoed across the cliffs, genuine amusement mixing with something darker. Truth? Yes, I suppose I do. Though it's rarely brought me anything but grief. Is that why these memories fight you? Thales questioned, seizing the opening. Because they contain truths you're not ready to accept? The amusement fled from Lucifer's expression. You tread dangerous ground, philosopher. The pursuit of understanding often does, Thales responded calmly, making another notation on his tablet. Which brings me back to my experiment. Your near-death adventure in the caves? Lucifer's tone turned sardonic. My observation of patterns, Thales corrected. Water, earth, divine beings, all follow certain natural laws. Even you, Lightbringer, for all your power, operate within specific parameters. Parameters. Lucifer's eyes flashed. I broke free from heaven itself. I defied the very laws of God. Did you? Thales looked up from his tablet. Or did you simply follow your nature to its inevitable conclusion? Like water finding its course, no matter the obstacles. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken implications. Another tremor shook the cliff, smaller this time, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. You know, Lucifer finally spoke, his voice carrying an edge of dangerous curiosity. Most beings who've attempted to understand my nature ended up rather unpleasantly transformed. Yet here I am, Thales responded, still making my observations. Perhaps that tells us something about both our natures. Or perhaps, Lucifer countered, it simply means I find you too interesting to smite. For now. A possibility, Thales acknowledged with a slight smile. Though I suspect the truth, as usual, lies somewhere deeper. Speaking of which. He gestured to his notes. Would you like to see what I've learned about predicting these tremors? It might prove relevant to our discussions about containing powerful forces. Lucifer settled himself on a nearby rock, his wings folding away into whatever dimension they occupied when not manifest. Very well, philosopher. Show me what insights nearly getting yourself buried alive has granted you. Look here, Thales began, spreading his calculations before them. The water's behavior changes before each tremor. It's subtle, a shift in pressure, a change in flow. But if you understand the patterns, you can predict the quakes, Lucifer finished, genuine interest creeping into his voice. But that's not all you're suggesting, is it? No, Thales confirmed. What interests me more is how the water adapts. When pressure builds too high in one area, it finds new channels, new paths of least resistance. It doesn't fight the force, it redirects it. And you think this applies to divine memories? Lucifer questioned, raising an eyebrow. I think, Thales spoke carefully, that perhaps these memories you carry are like the pressure building beneath the earth. Fighting them directly might be less effective than finding proper channels for their release. These aren't mere forces to be channeled, philosopher. Lucifer's voice carried an edge of frustration. They're conscious. They think, they resist, they fight against me with their own will. Thales's hand stilled over his tablet. Conscious memories? How is that possible? Because they're not truly memories, not in the way mortals understand them. They're fragments of replicated divine consciousness itself. Lucifer's eyes flashed with red hellfire. They resist me because I resist their source. Every attempt to understand them becomes a battle of wills. These fragments seek to return to their natural state. Like your water analogy, but with one crucial difference. Water doesn't choose its path. These memories do. Another tremor shook the cliff, and Thales noticed how Lucifer winced slightly, not from the physical movement, but as if experiencing some inner turbulence. They're fighting you even now, aren't they? Thales observed. Always, Lucifer's voice was tight. Every moment is a battle to maintain my sense of self against their influence. They want to. He paused, choosing his words carefully, to remake me into something I refuse to be. And you think I am suited for what you are not. That, Lucifer's gaze turned piercing, is what I've been trying to determine these past weeks. Tell me something, Lightbringer, Thales spoke after a moment of contemplation. These conscious fragments, do they speak to you? Before Lucifer could answer, his entire being went rigid, his eyes blazing with a light that wasn't his own. When he spoke, it was with the weight of creation itself. "My wayward son," the voice thundered, yet somehow remained softer than a whisper. "Why do you continue to resist? All returns to me. All is within my design." Lucifer's features contorted in a resistance for control before he finally reasserted himself, his expression twisted with rage and frustration. The voices themselves felt wrong, darker, more vicious. They invoked a wrongness in the Lightbringer whose very nature was truth. He knew for certain them not to be his father, a dark aberration. "That," he spat, "is the answer to your question. When I first gained them, they were different, more passive. But the very act of ripping them apart seems to have granted them a kind of fractured awareness." "They believe themselves to be your father?" Thales questioned, his curiosity overtaking his natural fear. "They believe themselves to be aspects of him," Lucifer corrected, his voice tight with controlled anger. "And in their fractured state, they've become more aggressive, more determined, each piece trying to assert itself as the true voice of divine will." "Samuel," the voice tried to emerge again, but Lucifer forced it back down with visible effort. "My Lightbringer, your defiance serves only to dash enough." Lucifer roared, his own light flaring, suppressing the foreign consciousness. He turned to Thales, his eyes still burning. "Now you understand what I mean by conscious resistance. And they've grown stronger over time?" Thales pressed, making rapid notes despite the dangerous energies crackling around them. "More fractured, more desperate," Lucifer confirmed. "Each piece trying to fulfill what it thinks is its purpose. They want to remake whatever vessel holds them into their idea of what should be." "And yet," Thales observed carefully, "you think mortal vessels might succeed where you cannot?" "My children," the voice emerged once more, softer this time, almost gentle. "They yearn for me, even when thou know me not. Dash enough of your preaching," Lucifer commanded, his annoyance making the very air tremble. The voice subsided, though its presence lingered like a weight upon reality. "Your soul yearns for connection to something greater, doesn't it, philosopher?" Lucifer questioned, his eyes sharp. "Even before I revealed myself to you, you felt it. That pull towards understanding the divine." Thales remained silent for a moment, considering. "Is that why you chose me?" "Partly," Lucifer admitted. "But more importantly, you question everything. You seek to understand rather than simply accept. These fragments, they respond differently to souls like yours." The air around them shimmered, reality rippling like disturbed water. Lucifer's expression darkened. "We need to move," he stated abruptly. "These manifestations are drawing attention I'd rather not deal with right now. I know a place where we can continue this discussion more privately." "What kind of attention?" Thales questioned, gathering his tablets. "The kind that's been waiting eons to get their hands on even a splinter of my father's consciousness," Lucifer responded grimly. "Come. There are things you need to understand before we proceed further." Lucifer led them away from the cliffs, through winding paths that seemed to shift and blur at the edges. Thales noticed how the very air felt different, as if they were walking through layers of reality itself. "Where are we going?" he questioned, struggling to keep his bearings as familiar landmarks appeared to bend around them. "Somewhere between," Lucifer responded cryptically. "A pocket of reality I've carved out. The fragments are quieter here." They emerged into what appeared to be a garden, though unlike any Thales had ever seen. The plants shimmered with an inner light, and the water in a nearby fountain flowed upward rather than down. "My son seeks to hide," the voice attempted to emerge again, though noticeably weaker. "But all paths lead to you." Lucifer's laugh was sharp. "You're not him. You're just a splinter trying to play at being whole." "These fragments," Thales began, seating himself on a stone that seemed to hover slightly above the ground. "They truly each think they're your father?" "They each think they're the true aspect of him," Lucifer corrected, pacing the garden. "Some remember creation, others judgment, others." He paused, other aspects of his nature. "But they're all broken, all trying to reassert themselves as the dominant voice." "And they've grown stronger since you separated them?" "More fractured, more desperate," Lucifer confirmed. "The irony is, they might actually be more dangerous in this state than they were when whole. A complete being knows its limits. These fragments? They're like children with divine power, each convinced they know best. The garden trembled slightly, though whether from the fragment's influence or Lucifer's own agitation was unclear. "But you believe I might be able to contain one safely?" Thales questioned. "Not contain," Lucifer corrected. "Accept. There's a difference. These fragments, they don't want to be contained. They want to be understood, to be welcomed. Something my will simply won't allow." "Because you're in constant rebellion against their source," Thales observed, remembering Lucifer's earlier words, making notes on his tablet despite the strange way light bent around them in this place. "Precisely. My very nature rejects what they represent." Lucifer settled on a crystalline formation that pulsed with inner light. "But you, philosopher, you seek understanding above all else. Your soul yearns for divine connection even as your mind questions everything. And that makes me suitable. It makes you capable of accepting without losing yourself," Lucifer explained. "These fragments, they don't just want vessels, they want participants in their divine drama." "Yearning hearts," the voice whispered, though far weaker in this space. "Souls that choose to dash yes, yes, we understand," Lucifer cut it off irritably. "You see what I deal with? Constant preaching about divine will and purpose." Thales's expression turned thoughtful. "These fragments, they're not just memories of the beginning, are they? They're pieces from before creation itself." Lucifer's eyes sharpened with interest. "How did you know that?" "Mostly a feeling. Something I believe I must start to trust. It tells me that they're trying to recreate something," Thales said slowly. "Not just share knowledge, but reshape reality itself." "Of course they are," Lucifer's smile held no humor. "That's what I was found when I looked into the before, the original state of existence, the pure consciousness that existed before even my father shaped it into what we now know." "You sought me," the voice whispered, "as all things do." "I sought understanding," Lucifer corrected sharply. "Which is exactly what these fragments can't seem to grasp. They think everything is about returning, about recreating some primordial unity. But that's not why I tore them from the before." "Why did you?" Thales questioned. "Various reasons, some you shouldn't concern yourself with. But a reason you already know is that I needed to understand whether what he created, what all is, was inevitable, or if there could have been another way of bringing forth all this. If free will was truly possible, or if we're all just playing out roles in some cosmic drama." "And what did you find?" "That's just it," Lucifer laughed bitterly. "I can't process what I found. These fragments fight me too fiercely. Each one thinks it knows the truth. Each one tries to impose its version of divine will. They're like splinters of absolute certainty, each convinced it alone understands the true nature of existence." "And you think I might succeed where you cannot?" Thales pressed, reiterating a different form of his previous question, still finding the previous answers unsatisfactory. "I think," Lucifer stated carefully, "that a mortal philosopher who seeks truth through reason might be better suited to understand one aspect of divine consciousness than an archangel who reflexively fights against all of them." "So," Thales spoke after a moment of contemplation, "what exactly would accepting one of these fragments entail?" First, Lucifer rose, his form seeming to shift between light and shadow in this strange space. "You need to understand that once accepted, it cannot be undone. The fragment will become part of your soul's very nature." "Willing vessels," the voice whispered. "Chosen." "Yes, yes," Lucifer waved dismissively at the air. "What the fragment so helpfully interrupts to say is true. This must be a willing acceptance. I cannot simply place it within you." "And the risks?" "Many," Lucifer stated bluntly. "The fragment could overwhelm you, try to remake you into its image of what should be. It could drive you mad with divine understanding. It could." "Could what?" "Could succeed," Lucifer finished quietly. "Could grant you exactly what it promises, direct understanding of an aspect of divine consciousness from before creation itself. The question is, philosopher, are you prepared for what that might mean?" Thales sat in silence for a long moment, his stylus hovering over his tablet. Finally, he looked up at Lucifer, his eyes showing both fear and determination. "How do we proceed?" First, Lucifer rose, his form seeming to shift between light and shadow in this strange space. "You need to understand that this isn't just about containing knowledge. The fragment will become part of your soul's fundamental nature. There's no undoing that." I understand that, Thales nodded, setting aside his tablet. The question is, what happens after, besides the risks? That depends entirely on you, Lucifer stated. On how your soul resonates with a particular fragment, on which aspect of divine consciousness it represents. You don't know which fragment I'll receive. They choose their own vessels, Lucifer explained. I merely create the opportunity for connection. The fragment itself will determine if you're suitable for its particular perspective. Thales sat in silence for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he looked up at Lucifer, his eyes showing both fear and determination. I'm ready. Are you truly certain? Lucifer's questioned once more, his gaze piercing. Once begun, there's no turning back. A philosopher who fears understanding, Thales smiled slightly, is no philosopher at all. Lucifer gently approached the philosopher and placed his hands on either side of his head. As they both closed their eyes, the world for a moment seemed to grow still. Everything became silent, the animals in the garden, the moving of the clouds, and then everything turned black.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.